Good morning. I'd like to call the Arpa discussion meeting to order for January 19th, 2022. I want to welcome everybody here today. This is a workshop where we'll discuss the possibility of distributing some of the American Rescue Plan money. So we'll begin the meeting with Commissioner Harvey giving the invocation, and Commissioner Turner will lead us in the pledge. If you can stand, please.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for today, a day we've never experienced before in our life, a day that we can have dialogue and conversation to help our fellow man today. Father, let us all be mindful of the needs of this community. And Lord, I just pray for the speakers today that they speak well and they present their case, Father, to us, and that we hear well and we understand, Father, how we can better move Putnam County forward today in this meeting. We thank you for our staff who has diligently worked on this meeting. Thank you for our chairman, Father, as he runs this meeting and controls it. Father, we thank you for all the things you do for us. Give us wisdom and strength today. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Thank you, Commissioner Turner. As I said, this meeting is for the discussion of distribution of the Arpa money. Hopefully, Commission, I've been working with staff, and at this meeting, hopefully we can start moving some of these projects forward because we do have a timeline. And with today's economic conditions of product supply and things like that, we don't want to get down to the deadline and not have the contracts fulfilled. So hopefully we'll be able to agree on moving some of this money forward today. I don't expect this to be the only meeting that we have, and it may be. So what I want to do first, before we get into the discussion, and before we get into discussion, I'm going to have Sam Sullivan give us just some updates on some of the changes in the Arpa regulations. But I'm going to go ahead and get public comment out of the way. So if any individuals here wishing to speak, if you'll turn in a blue card, we appreciate it. You don't have to have one. We're going to limit you to 3 minutes, so we'll start the public comment. Do we have any cards so far? And before we start, any of the commissioners wishing to make a comment before somebody comes up? Commissioner Rawls?
I have a question. You mentioned getting projects, contracts executed. Can you be specific about that?
Well, I know that we have discussed a certain amount of funding that we could move, that we had discussed from Parks and Recreation to Emergency Services, to where if we could approve those, that they could start moving those forward. And I'll have Julianne elaborate on that because we'll have to go through the federal procurement process, I believe. So Julianne,
Yes,
can you
sir,
elaborate on that?
that's correct, Commissioner. Just timeline is something to be concerned of, staff is concerned of. These are federal dollars, so they will need to follow the federal guidelines for procurement and contracting, which requires certain clauses be upheld and included and agreed to by both parties, above and beyond what we do on a normal basis for state or local dollars. It will also require us or preclude us in many cases from being able to use normal procurement channels, i.e. piggybacking or state contracts, because those too have not been procured in a federal manner. So when you account for the process, you're essentially going to start at ground zero for each of these projects or purchases that meet the threshold for the feds. And it would require us to write specifications, to do a federal procurement, to go through the federal process of award, and then contracting before we could place an order. That would be on something as simple as ordering a trinket or building, a bridge. So it's the process that should be considered, or at least should be mindful of from the boards, is the timeline and what we're seeing in today's market on purchases that we can move relatively quickly. Supply is still an issue, and so our timelines are hard, and they are set by the feds, and there is not, to today's knowledge, expected to be any flexibility if we just simply don't meet the timeline for construction or procurement.
What is the timeline specifically? If you put this on the street tomorrow, how long before you can award a contract?
Again, it depends on the dollar amount. And most conservative would be 28 days for a hard bid.
Okay.
If it's not a hard bid, then it would change. So.
That include writing the bid itself, or?
No, that is days it must be publicly on the streets.
I mean, from
the
start to
time
finish, if
Oh,
we
I'm
said,
sorry.
go ahead and
Well-
get this procured, what, 6 months?
Again, Commissioner, I hate to not answer your question directly, but it depends on what I'm buying. For instance, we all know that we've moved forward in writing an RFP for the communications towers. We're still in development of that RFP. It's a very complex project. It requires a lot of data analysis up front. It's going to require it on the back end as well. That RFP process in and of itself will likely be an 8-week process from the time we put it on the street to the time we evaluate and do presentations and then come to you. That's not an award process. Vice versa, if you want to simplify things, if I'm going to buy a trinket, then writing the specifications of that trinket have to be done by the end department that's going to use that item. Then we would put it into a hard bid, put it on the street for 28 days. The bids would come back in. We would do the same with you all and then write that contract. So unfortunately, there's not a set answer that I can give you. It's going to depend on the complexity of what we're buying.
I guess the question goes to what, specifically, what are we, it sounds like we have something that we're looking at that we're going to be pushing up against a brick wall on if we're not careful, because you're concerned about timelines. What are those right now?
Commissioner, I'm concerned about timelines on everything that's been considered or requested. Right now, we are seeing projects that are supposed to be done in X days take double that. I'm concerned of this year, we carry forward more purchases, whether it be fire trucks or ambulances.
Yep.
If you call those people right now today, if you can buy the one they've got built sitting on their shelf.
You're telling no about the
you're
flood,
still
trust me.
9 months.
I live in this world, but
So-
my question is, I'm trying to wrap my head around what Commissioner Pickens said, that we have to be mindful of the contract we're looking at. So is there anything that we're specifically looking at right now that we have to be procured in 2022? Because I thought we had to have this stuff dealt with by 2024.
The long and short to your answer is no, with the exception of anything that would be more complex. I'm concerned about the time. I'm not concerned about communications project from what I know about it today, because a lot of that is a tangible item, the masses of that.
Right.
I have read every staff project that's been submitted. Some of the other projects do absolutely concern me, whether it be a park renovation that's going to require drainage and field lighting, or a water project, or something else. Those are going to take substantial planning and construction timelines.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, we'll move forward with public comment. First speaker, Linda Kreider.
You gonna have Sam talk first or after?
No, after. Sam, I'll have you talk before we start the discussions.
The actual agenda item, so should I do it as public comment, or should I do it during the discussion of project?
I did not hear you.
I wasn't sure whether I should make my comments now as public comment, or it has to do with the agenda item.
I think now would be the time to do this. We'll go ahead and do it. If you can state your name and address.
My name
just
is
for the
Linda
record.
Kreider, and I reside at 112 Hiawatha Court, East Palatka. And I'm coming forward to you today with a project concept, and I'm using a prop because I've always been told that that's worth 1,000 words. And so,
I want you to just be envisioning
It's a true Seminole fan.
this.
the idea here is that we could have a legacy project to light the Memorial Bridge and the pedestrian underpass with a silhouette of an alligator. I'll just describe it so maybe you can envision it, because as I was looking at the bridge in my kayak one afternoon, I saw that the tail went around Veterans Park, came up as the back of an alligator, and when it came down on West Palatka, that's actually where the pedestrian bridge is, and that could be the head of the alligator. Maybe sounds a little far-fetched, but just bear with me. The green iridescent eyes could cast an artistic light down on the walkway with lighting across the bridge, creating a silhouette of the gator's body. While it may seem a bit outrageous, the precedent is set all over the country for bridge lighting in an artistic fashion. The pedestrian bridge is in desperate need of upgrade and could create a real attraction and addition to the riverfront park and a connector to the trail system. I envision it could possibly be a cooperative project between the county, the city, and the state for funding, design, and construction. So I wanted to throw this out. It's probably not going to be the last time you see this crazy idea, but we have been tossing around the idea of lighting the bridge. That is a precedent all over the country. Some examples of beautiful bridges, just go down to Daytona Beach and you will see what they did with the bridge, with the pedestrian walkways along there. I recently visited Greenville, South Carolina, where the people of Greenville requested DOT to take out their travel bridge for automobiles and construct a pedestrian cable stay bridge over the center of the city, right near where the waterfalls come down. That's the economic pulse right now of the city of Greenway, and it's a pedestrian bridge. So it's not so far-fetched. Maybe the idea of the alligator is, but if you ever go out in a boat and look back at our bridge, you'll see it. It's the back of an alligator. We have been discussing at Waterways and Trails Committee several times the idea of upgrading the pedestrian underpass. It needs it desperately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Commissioner Rawls, you had a question?
Have you talked to John Browning about this?
No, I have not.
You might want to, because he's actually involved in doing exactly what you're talking about, lighting of the bridge with FDOT. It's been kicked around, I guess, for a couple of years now.
Well, he knows about those alligators. He's right out there with them. I'll talk to him.
But also, you mentioned the decking under that goes from the north side of Reed Street to the south side, what do you want to call it, the under the
Riverfront
bridge.
Park,
Yeah.
basically.
I saw the mayor walk in. It might be a conversation that the county commission and the city needs to have. We are going to be meeting sometime in the near future.
And I
That might
have
be-
mentioned it to both Mandy and Jonathan with Public Works, and said that would be very definitely a possible proposal
Yeah.
and a unique example of the city and county working together.
And it's also important for the trails to be able to connect that one piece.
It's very
and-
important. It connects the trail system into the city of Palatka.
Yep.
And it's in desperate need. It's been band-aided to death, and it really needs a complete resurfacing project, and the railing could be an artistic addition with lighting. So, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Adams, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I wasn't really sure who was leading the effort for the bridge lighting, but I did have something on my email a few weeks ago about it. I think it is in the state somewhere where they're looking at it, so I'll see if I can find that email and just reply and see if the capability of lighting it with different designs may be there whenever they decide. My understanding was it's just gonna be colors, but maybe the capability to shine the colors in a specific location, that would be kind of cool. But the bridge, is that even the counties? So the bridge is the states, and then the stuff at the bottom is the cities, correct? And then the park.
It was built with transportation enhancement funds, I think 17 years ago. And transportation enhancement is a state funding pot that's now called Transportation Alternatives TAP program.
So your ask of us really is just for us to support the idea of lighting the bridge, because we really.
And the reconstruction of the bicycle pedestrian bridge underneath, which is in desperate need of assistance.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Okay, so Linda, hang on a second. Commissioner Turner?
Isn't ownership of the pedestrian walkway underneath the cities?
As I understand it, it was a state project and it was given to the city then, yes,
Yeah, then
Mr.
it
Turner,
was
to
turned over
maintain
the
it.
City to maintain,
Yep.
right? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Linda talked to, because I've talked to John Browning briefly, and he's working with that about getting the bridge lighted at some type. Maybe not exactly what you're talking about, but then somebody's gonna have to take over the maintenance responsibility of that, so that's gonna be a key topic there, but I'd reach out to John Browning,
Okay,
okay?
will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Denise Bramlett.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Denise Bramlett. I live at 245 River Drive, East Palaca, and I appreciate y'all having this meeting and the discussion about the percentage of the funding or how much funding you're going to look at possibly giving back to the nonprofits in Putnam County. According to the list that I reviewed, there's probably a dozen nonprofits that have reached out and asked for help, and a good portion of them. We're all local. We're all working on the same goals: feeding homeless, feeding children, helping the mental health. There's just all these nonprofits have good deeds and good works. So I hope that in this consideration today, that you look at each and every one of us and proportionally look at our needs. For Feed the Need, we're serving 800 children every weekend. At the end of the school year, it's 172,000 meals that we're sending out. It's a tremendous amount of food, and we're strictly volunteer, write grants. It's ongoing. It never stops. It's every week. It's the same totals. So any consideration that we get in this mix of money will be greatly appreciated and will definitely help. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Denise. Okay, next speaker, Ken Mulford.
Thank you for allowing me to speak this morning. Very much appreciate it. My name is Ken Mulford. I live at 468 High Tide Drive in St. Augustine, Florida, and I am the co-founder of Epicure with my wife, Sunny Mulford. We've been before you a few times and always with our hands out for something. But today I wanted to start by thanking everybody for considering our requests. We have adopted Putnam County, which is almost half of the work we do at Epicure. In 2021, 4.8 million pounds of food distributed to people food insecure. 45% of that was here in Putnam County in 2021. We love this place. We are so grateful for all that you are considering, for hoping. We are hoping that we get due consideration. We do believe that we keep the food insecure from becoming too distracted at school. We keep them from, bad means of securing their food and their shelter. We do a lot of good for this community, and we do it with an open heart. We raise dignity where and when possible among all of our patrons. It's super important to us that we preserve, in as kind and uplifting a way as possible, the dignity of all those we serve. And we feel that our efforts here merit some help from these emergency funds. We have been able to, the ask is, of course, to purchase the warehouse we are in on 389 US 17. We have been able to secure a donor for half of the cost of that warehouse, as long as we can secure the funds through Arpa for the rest of it. So we have a matching donation. We think that's wonderful. We are very, very hopeful of the county's participation through this program, this emergency program. We know there are many, many really wonderful causes, and we hope you can support all of them, whether it's business development and infrastructure, or it's the work that we do to help the people of this community that we love dearly. And that's all.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Rawls?
Yeah, you guys don't just have, you distribute at your location on 17 North, but you also have other groups. I'm aware of one of the south end of the county, Pomona Park. John Chapman has talked to me about what they do, and you've also, you guys support Feed the Need as well, correct?
That's correct.
And-
We pretty much support all of the food pantries around here.
Okay, all right,
And we do breakout distributions like Mr.
Right.
Chapman's.
One of the conversations I'm trying to get started in Putnam County, not just with the commission, but publicly, is the economy that we're looking at right now is here. Food prices are way up. If you've been to a restaurant lately, you see that. So I think you have my support. I can't speak for the rest of the commission, but I think what you guys do fulfills part of our mission and part of our requirements under Chapter 125 of our mandate from the state. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I will make one comment about inflation. Our recipients of food, the food insecure, have grown tremendously in the past 4, 5, or 6 months. The pinch of inflation is being felt across the board. It is, of course, felt most acutely by the people in the most need.
I think as we move our wage scale up, inflation will only go up from there. Businesses are either going to lay people off to make their budgets work, or they're going to increase their cost of goods sold. Either way, it's not a good thing. I think it's going to put more pressure on folks like yourself, Feed the Need, Bread of Life, First Presbyterian Church, and what their efforts are. I think we're going to see a lot more of that coming into play over the next couple of years.
Yeah, walk into a McDonald's and you will find kiosks instead of servers. Yes, a capitalistic system will find ways around these high costs in order to preserve as much of their viability as possible. We see every single day increased need, and it's, when we poll somewhat informally, we do intend to poll much more formally going forward. It's inflation.
Okay, thank you. Mike Perry?
Mike Perry, 601 Reed Street, Palatka, USA. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. It's my privilege to serve as the Executive Director of the Education Foundation of Putnam County. Since the inception of the Arpa process, I have been given many, many opportunities to explain the who, what, when, where, how, and why of the Education Foundation of Putnam County. I have nothing to add this morning except to convey my sincere thanks and appreciation to this commission for the patience and consideration that has been afforded to me and the organization I represent. May the good Lord continue to bless this commission. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Commissioner Rawls?
Mike, if I could real quick. This morning at a Rotary meeting, Renee Huff was presenting, and we had a discussion about skills training and what their efforts are regarding Interlaken High School. You and I have had conversations about that. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, Commissioner Walls, as we've talked about in the past, one of the things that we want to do in expanding our goals and our missions is to be supportive of vocational, technical initiatives in the county. The other thing that we also want to do is we are a farming, ranching community. There are programs that should and could be implemented in our school system to try and help these young people that are, quite frankly, they want to make it their careers. But really, there's no programs out there to assist them. But that's what we want to do, sir, is try and do these initiatives which teach everyday real world skills, get people ready for what's really out there.
And along the lines of that, part of what she discussed was the fact that they were able to do this because they had a grant from the Oliver Foundation. my understanding from you is y'all would be able to support a program like that as well. Is that correct?
We could take part in that program, sir. I mean, if there's something that they need, say for instance, if our welding program needs a welding machine, come see us. Different things, I mean, that's just one example, Commissioner Ross,
Right.
but there's many things we can do. Actually, we can do basically whatever we want as an independent organization. However, we are respectful of the district and want to try and help them in every way we possibly can.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Adams, before you sit down, Mike?
So I appreciate everything you've talked, and you and I have had several conversations separate from this. The one key thing with everything we're doing, everything all these groups are doing to feed people and all that stuff, you know, another way, a parallel means is by educating our citizens, is by vocational training. And, you know, I'd like to see that expand into adult vocational training. One thing I don't see, and that's something that hopefully at some point we'll even be able to have meetings with the district when it gets more to this vocational stuff, is adult training. And that maybe that's something even through EPIC or other places, that this is where the idea of a centralized resource hub comes to my mind. And I guess I don't communicate it well enough, but I really think it's important, whether it's, I think the county's role in all of this would be to create a centralized hub where we could house the opportunities for all these different groups. I think that's where we could best get the most bang for our buck, and both from a distribution center perspective as well as an educational center. And I know EPIC has talked about some of the educational things that they do as well. So I don't know, I just look forward to helping any way we can, where we can make our citizenship help themselves as well as helping them, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir, it does. And Commissioner Adams, when I say we are an education foundation, that's what we are. That can include anybody, any program. You can be an adult. It can be an adult-driven program. So, you know, anytime we can sit down and talk about any specific thing you have in mind, please let me know. But don't think that we're constrained by age. We're not. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, next speaker, Melissa Salazar, I think it's, pen was running out of ink on you, wasn't it?
Board of Commissioners for allowing me to speak. My name is Melissa Salazar, and I am with Shining Light Peer Services at 208 North 6th Street in Palaca, Florida. And we're approaching you today to talk about the proposal for the Arpa money and what services that we can provide in the community. So as of now, we have created an initiative to work with people with substance use and mental health. We offer direct peer support services, resources to treatment, linkage to care, HIV, Hep C, testing and treatment. We also are providing a Way Forward program for our chronically homeless and individuals who are at lieu of becoming homeless due to increased rent and eviction processes. We've also created a recovery pod within Putnam County Jail to help create an environment of support for individuals to rehabilitate their selves and to be productive members of society. So we look forward to also we're creating an initiative called Equip Putnam, where we're creating a blueprint to educate the community on Narcan, and having businesses and restaurants come forward to have Narcan in the community to help with our increased overdose rates. And so we're just coming humbly to you guys to let you know what services that we provide and what we are willing to do if we are granted some of these funds from the board. So thank you for allowing me to speak to you guys, and have a great day.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Sheila McCoy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I didn't know that I would have this opportunity, but from the last meeting that you had to this meeting, our need has changed. Someone tried to purchase the building that we're currently in at 2600 Peter Street, but the owner wouldn't sell it. Thank God for that. But we are in need of, today, about $200,000 to purchase that building. This is our 30th year of helping our community with rent, utilities. We have a tax program that we may or may not be able to have this year due to needing someone to be the site coordinator. But we've seen about over 90,000 Putnam Countyans that we have helped over the years that we've been here. And so any consideration that you have to help us will be very much appreciated. We pray for divine guidance in your deliberations as to how to fairly or whatever make the appropriations. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Sheila. Okay. Mr. Adams, Commissioner Adams.
So I guess I have a question, Sheila. In the I guess the last fiscal year of your operating, you've helped people with rent and the different things that you guys help with. Do you have a rough number of what that is? Or I guess since COVID began?
I looked at a figure yesterday. It wasn't so much how many, but it was a figure, and it was almost $25,000 in assistance that we helped with in 2021.
Okay. And 2020 was probably about the same, you think?
Yes. Because
Sam,
we've been open, we've never closed.
Right,
And
yeah.
the amount of utilities and rent for Putnam County is steep.
Yeah, it's increasing dramatically.
Yes.
You see that on Facebook with the different ads and stuff. Sam, could I ask Sam a question? Oh, you're sitting out here. I don't have my glasses on, so there's a guy that has a sweater on like you do back there. Is it within the ARPA funding, and I don't know if they received anything from the CARES Act, that particular agency,
We did.
that could go back, and since they spent this money during, obviously, the COVID situation, where we could reimburse the expenses that they had, basically helping people during COVID for their rents and that type of thing, that may be a better way to carve this turkey.
It would have to be from anything after March of 2021.
March of 2021?
There's actually, I want to say March 3rd, but someday in March 2021. Anything beforehand would not be eligible.
Okay, thank you.
Can we still go after CARES money, the money that was left? I thought it was over.
CARES is over.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
No, I didn't know if they already got CARES money.
I understand.
Yeah.
No, I just-
Commissioner Ross.
I just didn't know if we could.
Along the same lines as Commissioner Adams' question, do you see the need increasing or decreasing? Increasing, okay. And looking at, yesterday, I had someone contact me that wants to look at, they're establishing a business here, they need a place to rent. They reached out to Alliance Realty Management, they had 2 places for rent. And the rent was $1,000 or $1,300, 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom. One was a double-wide mobile home at $1,350, and the other one was $1,000 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath in the historic district, very small place. And so my question is, if a smaller scale house like that is $1,000, how is that impacting you? Are you seeing more people coming in that are not able to make their rent? Are you seeing? I'm sure landlords are following suit and raising the rents as they go up. Are you guys seeing more of a demand for rent?
Yes.
Okay.
And typically, it's the one pot that we have the least of. But we can refer out to our Florida and some other agencies, but yes. We had a guy yesterday that has a place, I won't say where, but the rent is $1,300 for a 1-bedroom. 1 bedroom.
Well, I know Palaca Oaks is getting like $720 for an efficiency, 250 square foot efficiency.
$1,300 for 1 bedroom. I won't say where the place is, so he needed some help, and we helped him.
So what happens next month?
He has a job.
Okay, so
He
he
has a
just
job.
need to get over a hump.
Yes.
Okay.
He has a job. Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other individuals wishing to make public comment?
The mayor stood up at the same time you did. You didn't see that, but
You just trumped the mayor.
Lori Slavin, 106 Roberts Boulevard, Satsuma, Florida. I want to echo what everyone else has said. We appreciate the time that you guys have taken to consider all of our needs. As one of the poorest communities in Florida, there are a lot of needs, and I know that this is a hard job for you and a hard decision. And every single person that's come before you is very deserving. So it's not going to be an easy decision. So we do appreciate any consideration. One thing I wanted to add to what I've said in the past is some of the things that change daily for us due to a lack of money. Probably a month ago, if you knew where we were and you rode by, you would see me and several of my advocates out pouring concrete into a pole that someone ran over that we did not have the money to fix, but it secures our gate. It's very important for us to have a secure gate, especially as night falls. So we had duct tape and we had concrete, and it didn't last but 2 days, but we got secure for a night. And then we had one of our husbands come in and do it properly. Also, I just wanted to say it's much more than serving the women that we serve. You know, our advocates are plunging toilets, and, you know, they're snaking toilets because we don't have the money to call in a plumber. They don't make enough money to do plumbing. And sometimes we have bathrooms out of commission until we can round up the money to call in a plumber. So this money for us would be very important in doing those type things, keeping our women secure and safe. And again, we are no more deserving than any other agency that's spoken, but we do appreciate your consideration and hope that we pray for you guys, because we know that it is definitely a hard decision and there's only so much money. So we appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
if I could say,
Mr. Rawls?
feel free to give me a call when you get it later on. We'll talk about some of the issues you're having.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Hill, good morning.
Good morning. To the chair and to the commissioners, Terrell Hill, 201 North 2nd Street, Palaca City Hall. Just wanted to talk to you just a little bit about what opportunities exist for us today. More than anything, we wanted to have the conversation. I've talked to Chair Pickens about coordinating a meeting with the commissions to discuss things such as Arpa. Arpa is a very unique opportunity for all of us because it gives us an opportunity to use funds that we would never get. And this may be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in many ways for us to collaborate no differently than what we've done with St. John's Avenue and some of the other projects. I'm always encouraged to remind the commission that for years, the city and the county worked in silos. This is a great opportunity for us to continually collaborate, for us to build our community up from the core out, from the city of Palaca, where people live, work, play, and learn. The majority of our citizens in our county, but it also creates opportunities for us to look at projects such as paving, affordable housing, education, many things that we haven't looked at before, and also from business recovery. It gives us an opportunity for us to really do what other communities are doing, and that's to begin to pool these resources together so that we can create a destination for Putnam County much faster than we would with the pennies that the city has together. If we combine city and county dollars and other entities that have ARPA opportunities such as we do, then there is a place for us to take our pennies and make dollars and make a difference in this community much faster than we would before. And so Commissioner Jones is here as well. And we just want to thank you for the opportunity to sit together. We look forward, as you begin to finalize your ARPA plans, for the opportunity for us all to sit together and to see where one Putnam County can come together with one Palatka, because we're all on the same team, we're in the same jerseys, looking for the same results. And so again, thank you, gentlemen.
Commissioner Rawls?
Yeah, the question, have you guys expended your ARPA money yet, or y'all?
We haven't. We're in about the same process that you guys are in. We're getting ready to have an ARPA workshop. It was canceled a couple weeks ago, and we're rescheduling it so that we can begin to have those conversations. And we won't finalize our plans until we get an opportunity to sit down with the county and see where we can make the most difference in our community.
Okay.
Okay, and as we discussed, send Sarah some dates.
Sonny's been working on that. I think they've already started communications.
Okay, okay. Commissioner Adamsack?
Trying to get my light lit. I definitely look forward to that meeting with the city, not just on ARPA, but on other things as well. But I think ARPA is a great starting point that lets us start real discussions, that we can start doing stuff today and then maybe expand that into the future. I really appreciate your being here. You've been here several times, there are meetings since I've been in this seat, and I always appreciate the openness whenever I call any one of your people on your commission, and really appreciate the dialogue that we have. So thank you for that, and I look forward to it being a commission dialogue, and hopefully we get that started as soon as possible.
I think the opportunities are going to be, I'm excited about what we can do with ARPA. It just creates an opportunity for us really to start to build on the legacies that we create together. And I think that's the biggest piece of all of it. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else wishing to make public comment? Okay, I'm going to close the public comment portion of this meeting at this time. We're going to take a 3-minute break. I'll go ahead and reconvene the workshop, and I'd like to mention one of our employees, actually one of our executive directors, Mike Troxel with Public Works. His father passed away Friday, and just keep Mike and his family in your prayers. So Mike, sure sorry. Okay, we'll go ahead and move down, and I'll ask Sam Sullivan. If he would just give us an update on some of the changes with the ARPA regulations. So Sam?
Yes, sir. Here are some of the key changes and clarifications that came out in the final rule, which was published about 2 weeks ago. The final rule delivers broader flexibility and greater simplicity in the program, responsive to feedback in the comment process. Among other clarification changes, the final rule provides the following features. Regarding replacing lost public sector revenue, the final rule offers a standard allowance for revenue loss of $10 million, allowing recipients to select between a standard amount of revenue loss or complete a full revenue loss calculation. Recipients that select the standard allowance may use that amount, in many cases their full award, for government services with streamlined reporting requirements. Public health and economic impacts. In addition to programs and services, the final rule clarifies that recipients can use funds for capital expenditures that support an eligible COVID-19 public health or economic response. For example, recipients may build certain affordable housing, childcare facilities, schools, hospitals, and other projects consistent with final rule requirements. In addition, the final rule provides an expanded set of households and communities that are presumed to be impacted and disproportionately impacted by the pandemic, thereby allowing recipients to provide responses to a broad set of households and entities without requiring additional analysis. Further, the final rule provides a broader set of uses available for these communities as part of COVID-19 public health and economic response, including making affordable housing, childcare, early learning, and services to address learning loss during the pandemic eligible in all impacted communities, and making certain community development and neighborhood revitalization activities eligible for disproportionately impacted communities. Further, the final rule allows for a broader set of uses to restore and support government employment, including hiring above a recipient's pre-pandemic baseline, providing funds to employees that experience pay cuts or furloughs, avoiding layoffs, and providing retention incentives. Premium pay. The final rule delivers more streamlined options to provide premium pay by broadening the share of eligible workers who can receive premium pay without a written justification, while maintaining a focus on lower income and frontline workers performing essential work. Water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. The final rule significantly broadens eligible broadband infrastructure investments to address challenges with broadband access, affordability, and reliability, and adds additional eligible water and sewer infrastructure investments, including a broader range of lead remediation and stormwater management projects. Final rule effective date. The final rule takes effect on April 1, 2022. Until that time, the interim final rule remains in effect. Funds used consistently with the interim final rule while it is in effect are in compliance with the Arpa program. However, recipients can choose to take advantage of the final rule's flexibilities and simplifications now, even ahead of the effective date. Treasury will not take action to enforce the interim final rule to the extent that a use of funds is consistent with the terms of the final rule, regardless of when the ARPA funds were used. Recipients may consult the statement regarding compliance with the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds interim final rule and final rule, which may be found on the Treasury website. Deadlines. Deadlines for financial obligation and project completion did not change from the interim final rule. All expenses must be obligated no later than 12/31/2024, and all projects must be completed by 12/31/2026. With the need to adhere to federal procurement regulation, time is of the essence. And that is the update.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Okay, commissioners, this is our first discussion, really first meeting directly on ARPA. We've had discussions where we earmarked different projects and different pieces of equipment and things like that. And Julianne, I believe you have all those numbers.
Yes, sir, I do.
Would you like to make any comment before I open it up to commissioners?
I can go through a few categories. If the commission will remember, during the fiscal year 22 budget process, We did pull a handful of items that were at that time potentially ARPA eligible from needed 22 capital and moved it into a holding place where we designated it potentially ARPA. In total sum, that's $1.3 million and affects emergency services, ambulances, the purchase of ambulances, parks and recreation, IT, and building and grounds. Additionally, the board has been presented at prior meetings with an ARPA staff needs list. These were projects identified for potential ARPA funding that affects our county departments and ability to provide services to the citizens. They highlights our emergency medical services, of course, parks and recreation. We, again, have 2 parks that fit into the qualified census tract completely that would allow enhancements specifically to be made to those parks. Water and wastewater projects, as well as the broadband was discussed. Additionally, commissioners, at your last workshop, we had a brief discussion and you were given information on some data that Mr. Troxel put together on the water system and the potential for using those ARPA funds for some eligible projects that would assist that system in becoming sustainable. And I do have handouts for any of that a commissioner may want to see in black and white. And I believe Mr. Troxel is with us, who can also discuss further. I know that his conversation was abbreviated at that workshop we held it for today. So I can go into more or less detail as the board wishes.
Okay. All right, thank you, Julianne. Okay, we'll start with Commissioner comments. Commissioner Turner?
Okay, I'll try to keep this as brief as I can, even though I've got a lot to say on this subject. First off, I have a couple of questions, and if you can answer them, great, and then I want to go into a short presentation if possible. The stuff that you just described as we put it into a possible ARPA category, that was a possible ARPA, or if we could find other funds category. It wasn't just a fund with ARPA. Okay, so I just want to be sure that I'm understanding correctly. Okay, so if we were to decide to give money to a nonprofit, we had an issue on our audit 2 years ago because we gave money to a nonprofit and we didn't have the correct paperwork or a memorandum of understanding or a service that was going to be a particular service that was going to be rendered. So has that gone out the window with ARPA funding, or would we have to supply that as part of this process if we gave money to a nonprofit? Because we sure got banged on it before.
So my opinion, sir, is that the state auditors are going to defer to ARPA eligibility. With that caveat being said, I do not believe to date that I do not have to date enough details on any nonprofit to completely tell you that their programmatic delivery of what they're offering fits into an ARPA category. It would require much more narrative, documentation, program outlines. Are they broad categories that fit into what ARPA is designed to assist with? Yes. With those categories, there are some very stringent rules that come down to that, much more so than what we saw in CARES Act. Specifically, it's designed to be that way. So making them compliant, I believe that if we make them ARPA compliant for the federal rule, that it will suffice for our state auditors. However, that's not to say that as of today, I can give you any confidence that I have what I need to make any of them ARPA eligible.
Well, I think that answers that particular question as much as we can at this time, that if we decided to take a piece of the ARPA money and give it to, and set it aside for nonprofit funding, that doesn't mean it would go to any certain nonprofit until they met the federal guidelines necessary to be able to get the money. Is that the proper answer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. No, I'm not you, Mr. Chairman, I'm not done. Okay, I want to make some proposals here and have a theoretical discussion. We've already talked about doing two projects. The upgrades to the East Palaca water system, which is about $250,000 we think is gonna cost. And we set aside $106,000 already to be funded. We've already given them the go-ahead, the go-ahead to do the system upgrades to East Palaca. We just haven't told them where we're gonna fund it yet out of ARPA general funds. So basically, we've had $256,000 that we've either already put in ARPA or we've said we're gonna fund from somewhere that would fit in ARPA, that we already got those projects going. The next thing is the communication system. We spent $106,000 on a consultant to try to get a new communication system designed to the point within the guidelines that we could do it. Seems to me at this point that it's gonna be about $7 million, best we can just wildly guess at this point. And that includes a tower that we already have in Better Place Plan budget to build if we needed to. So the other thing is that the presentation that was given to us on Tuesday of last week that I asked to be shifted to this meeting because it's directly related to this meeting over the water system in East Palaca. I think that the way discussions have gone in the past, that all the board members are interested in trying to get that system to be sustainable to some point. If we were to take the presentation that was made by Mr. Troxel last week and we took 1A, that would be $3.488 million for phase 1A, and it would be $2.584 million for 2A. And then that comes to $6,072,000, and then we need another approximately $300,000 to $400,000 for hookups. We've got to pay to hook the people up, or this plan ain't going to work. So that, if you use those numbers, we'd be at $6,372,000, $256,000 for the money that we've already talked about. That'd give us $7 million for the communication system, knowing that we had $1 million in there in the Better Place Plan. That would leave us approximately $650,000 without using any of the other any of the monies for the projects that we couldn't fit in the budget this year that the county desperately needed, and that basically, like I said, would give us $650,000 if we did to do other projects with, including the ones Ms. Young just brought up. And we also could decide to take and not take and pay for the $1 million tower that's in the Better Place Plan monies right now, and take that money and actually go pave roads or resurface roads with it, which would benefit all the citizens in the county and desperately needs doing. And so if we did all that, we've got anywhere from $650 to $1.65 million to pay for all the ARPA projects, to pay for the upgrades at the parks. I don't know if we've already paid for it or not, but the upgrade to the water system at the Triangle Park for the splash pad, I think already paid for that. And so that would fit, I'm assuming. And so if it would, but anyhow, we've got, there's other projects and that helps all the citizens of Putnam County by doing those projects. And I just want to finish up by saying that every charity or nonprofit that came before us today is very deserving. But it's my fundamental value, it's my fundamental belief, and I'll probably get booed for this, but it's my fundamental belief that the government should not tax you and then take your taxes and this board decide who to give that money to charity. That's my fundamental belief. I believe that we should use that money for things that will help the citizens of the whole county as much as possible, as well as, somewhere down the road that we would be able to charge less taxes because we have done things that would have had to be done at some point in the future with the ARPA money. That's basically a windfall that we can use in that direction. We can take, if we make the water system and the sewer system sustainable, then the money that we're putting in it every year from everybody's taxes wouldn't have to be put in there anymore. If we make it sustainable to the point we don't have to hold $550,000 a year into the Better Place plan. We don't have to hold the extra $2 million in Better Place plan money because it's sustainable, and then it can pay its own payments and pay its own way. So it's the number one thing I think we can do with this money, other than to save the lives of our first responders by putting in a communication system, would be to make that water and sewer system sustainable. We're on our way. We're close with the new grant we've got. We're close to sewer. I'm talking real close to sewer. And that grant is in the area of the 1A proposal for the water system. If we do the 1A water system and the 2A water system, and we hook up people, we can pay to hook up people along the existing water system. If we get about 1,000 customers, we're going to be close to sustainability, very close to sustainability. Then, like I said, we've saved Better Place $550,000 a year. We've saved, please let me know, I'm trying not to put anything in your mouth. That's why I keep looking at you, Julianne, is that,
Right now, we
because I
commit
figure
one-
at some point you're going to go, wait a
Right
minute.
now, BPP has 2.7 in reserves for the water that has to be held for the pledge, and we take out of BPP 1.1. So every year, we have to put a payment into reserves, and we have to make a payment to the water system.
So it's about $1.7 million a year, give or take, plus the money we already have in there between the payment and the money we have to put into the other fund to make sure we can make the payment after Better Place, right?
Roughly 1.1 every year, and then your 2.7 is what you've accrued right now that you've got to
Okay, so
hold.
it'll save us $1.1 million every year that we could use towards roads and paving and what have you, and resurfacing. And on top of that, we can also take the 2.7 million that we have in reserves for that right now. If we made it sustainable where it can pay its own way, we feel like we could demonstrate to the state or USDA or whoever's making us hold this money, we could demonstrate to them we no longer need to hold it because now they're sustainable. They can pay their own way instead of us subsidizing those payments with Better Place money. So just to try and finish up for you, Mr. Chairman, we looked hard at the 6 loans that we owe on the water and the sewer system. We cannot find to this point any advantage in paying any of them off. Any advantage. The only advantage that we can find at this point to the county would be because, well, I'll try to keep it short as I can. The only reason we can find advantage is if we can make it sustainable, and then we can convince them that we can pay the payments out of that, then we don't have to hold all that money anymore, and we can go on and pay the payments out of the monies. That would be the goal. It would be sustainable, and then pay their own payments. Without this ARPA money, that's not going to happen in any of the lifetimes of anybody up here unless y'all live a long time. The only way to do this is to grow our way out of it. So it won't help to get another loan because then you got a payment. We're back in the same spot we are. I'm just telling you, if you want the water and sewer system to be sustainable and save the money and get the 2.7 million back from the Better Place money and to keep from having to pay 1.1 million a year in payment out of Better Place monies, if you want all that to happen, the only way to do it is to take 6.372 million of this money and put it towards the system 1A and 2A of that, or 1 and 2A of that proposal that Mr. Troxel came up with. And please keep in mind, Mr. Rawls will know this as much as anybody in this room, because he's in the business that I'm in. Those are basically today's budget dollars. In the last year, a house you could build a year ago will cost you at least 15 to 20% more today than it would have 1 year ago. I've got a project that I've been looking at that's got valves and taps in it, which is directly related to this sewer and water system stuff. They've gone up 35% in the last 7 months, 35%, and they're 16 weeks out, and nobody will give you a price on them. They'll give you a ballpark allowance on them, is all they'll do. And then they'll say, whatever they cost in 4 months, that's what they're gonna cost. So that's what we're gonna run into on all this stuff that we're doing. We're gonna run into that. So my proposal probably should include an escalation charge somewhere in here of at least 10% on this system, which just burn up that other $650,000 that we were talking about earlier. And so basically the ARPA money's expended, with the exception of the $1 million that we could take and use the Better Place money that we've already got budgeted, and take that $1 million and put it towards these other projects or whatever, and use the original budgeted item. But that just keeps us from paving or resurfacing $1 million extra in roads this year with the Better Place money, which most of the commissioners have stated publicly that we should do the most of that. The more of that we could do, the better in the roads and resurfacing with Better Place. So unless a commissioner has a question, I'm good for now, Mr. Chairman. I think that's all I have at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Turner.
I have one question for staff.
Okay. Okay.
So we had spoke about the commitments to Better Place plan from prior commissions, as far as, I think we talked about the jailhouse as well as the water and sewer. I thought we discussed that there is an opportunity that could be moved to general funders or something else as the collateral, I guess is the, I don't know. There's no mechanism to do that?
Well, may I start and then you pitch in? We looked at that actually, and what ends up happening is that the collateralized, the documents, the loan documents for the loans collateralize BPP. So the only way you could get that done would be to go to USDARD, Rural Development, and ask them, would they release that collateral from the Better Place plan to let us do what you're doing and use regular reserves. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't believe you got a chance in hell of that happening, because if I was USDA Rural Development, there's no way I would release my collateral for repayment in order to let you just say, if I have enough reserves, I'll pay you back, which is basically what the option would be. So that, now Ms. Young can probably give you a lot better answer.
Thank you. What about refinancing that then and using different collateral, or putting a bond out to cover that? Is that potentially possible?
Anything's possible.
I'm all for getting all of this out of a Better Place, because I don't think it should ever been there.
There's always a return on what you're doing. And
Yes.
if you refinance, then we're gonna pay a whole new set of financing fees. And our interest rates are not where I would tell you you're gonna make up a whole lot of advantage. So they're not high to begin with, although interest rates are low right now. You're roughly gonna be talking about refinancing $14 million. And there's a cost to refinancing that. There's a cost to borrowing money.
To me, though, if it's a break even,
I
and it
missed
it puts it where we free up Better Place plan, it basically achieves what he's doing just through doing a refinance. I'd even say if it costs
Well,
us.
there's a commitment somewhere if we refinance it, no matter where. Somebody has to pay for it. The 14, Commissioner Rawls, is roughly your outstanding principal on your water and wastewater
okay.
only.
Okay.
And what about the issuance of a bond?
Again, anything's possible.
I just think there's other ways to cut that cookie that I'd like to see done, or at least see what it looks like.
Matt, do you have a comment?
I mean, I could add in a little bit about bonds. I believe the USDA issuance is already a bond. That's typically what USDA does, is they pull together many different entities and then they issue a bond. I could look more into it, or if the commission wanted to research that further, I could bring in Jeremy Needfelt from PFM. They're the ones that have done the debt analysis, and they can run the numbers on those refinancing fees. And if it's a bond, it will cost more to issue because you have to pay for the fiduciary to hold the funds. You have to pay for a bond attorney. It's a different attorney than the normal attorney, so there's additional fees with the bond. That's why the USDA tries to get many different entities together and then do one big bond issue together.
But if I may, Mr. Chairman, Matt, before we go there, I'd like for Susan and Julianne to tell us between them, do they see an advantage in us going there? Because they've already both told me, no, there's no advantage in us moving in that direction. So I'm good for looking, excuse me, I didn't mean to get into it.
What's the disadvantage?
The water revenue bonds rate is only 4.25%. The sewer bond rate is only 2.75%.
When Mr. Needfelt came in quite a while ago, about a year ago, they were able to identify two of the bond issues. They were the 2008 A and B, which is the older water and sewer bonds. Those did make sense on paper for him to move forward with refinancing just those. But looking at the other looking at our other debt obligations, some of them may have repayment clauses, or in the case of the USDA, if they were already issued as bonds, what typically happens on those is, I wouldn't call it a prepayment penalty, but it's because of the lenders have bought these bonds in advance, there is built-in interest into it, and in order to pay it off, usually it's the interest rates have to be quite a bit lower to refinance bonds for it to make sense. But we certainly can look into that, but like Commissioner Turner said, we can have Susan and Julianne look some more, and I can also ask PFM.
And I guess my thought process is if it's a break even or a slight loss, there is advantages to having it taken out a Better Place plan, even with a slight loss.
Now you're talking about moving the payments for the debt out of Better Place, correct?
Yes, in
And
conjunction.
the collateral.
Yes.
Right. The payments can actually be made, and I hope I'm not misspeaking, but everything that I've seen, payments can be made from other sources without changing the funding agreement, just because in your loan agreement or in your bond agreement that a certain revenue stream has been dedicated or collateralized for that loan. It doesn't mean that you have to use that source of funding to make those payments, and that's evidence from what we've seen with both the, and I can never remember which one is which, but either the jail or the water is obligated from Better Place, and then the other is obligated from, I think it's the jail is obligated from general fund, but it is paid from Better Place. So there's always the potential to do that, and that's that would probably be more cost effective if that's what the board wanted to do, than to go back through an entire process just to get that revenue stream uncollateralized for that one loan agreement.
Thank you. And I guess I'll say this, I pretty much support 1 and 2 phases. So 1A looks really good, 2A looks okay. 3 and 4, I'll shut the door on them if I can. But 1 and 2A, but I do think from a water perspective, and I brought this up in the last county commission meeting, we do need to have the meetings with the other water suppliers in the county and see if there's other areas, because it's for the good of the whole county. Now, whether it benefits us as a county government or it benefits the city government or the city of Crescent City or Interlochen, wherever it is, wherever we can get the most density bang for our buck for citizens that want to participate in the water or sewer, which I don't think the other ones have a lot of sewer. I think Crescent City may have some sewer. I think is where we should go, only because the whole point of ARPA is to benefit as much of the community as possible. So I would like to see us have these discussions with the other government agencies to see where we have the most density of population of users, potential customers, and then maybe look at some sharing possibly, and if they're not agreeable to it, they're not agreeable to it. But have some sharing where we revenue share with them based on the fact that we're helping them expand into the county outside their city limits, and that may offset some of this, so we may get almost as much bang for the buck and service as many or more people in a greater geography throughout the county than just the same area that we always service.
Well, and was that
Thank you.
aimed at me?
No, it's aimed in, that's a
Okay,
general idea that I have.
wanted to kind of answer it.
Sure.
Okay, that's fine. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I thought he wanted to talk.
But
to me
I'd
about
love to
it.
hear your thought on it.
Would you mind?
Okay, then we're gonna go to Commissioner Harvey. He's been patiently waiting.
Okay, so the areas that we selected, 1 and 2, 2A, they're some of the densest areas in the whole county outside of the city limits.
Sure.
So I think it would be a grand use of the city's ARPA money if they wanted to expand their water system. I don't think it would be a great use of the county's ARPA money to give it to the city to expand their water system, because they're gonna reap any benefits from it instead of us. So I'm all open for the meetings.
So
I'm all open for all of
again, the
that.
stipulation I had was revenue sharing with whatever
Right.
entity we did that with. So, and I think that can be negotiated if we have to have the conversation first.
I understand. That conversation has been done in the past. It's not their.
I'd like to be
city's
part
not
of that
very open
conversation.
To, well, you will be in the next meeting with the city.
Excellent.
Okay, all right, Commissioner Harvey?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too came with a proposal today, and I appreciate Commissioner Turner having, if you'll take one and pass them down. For the audience's sake, this is the first time that we can, we have to do this publicly. So I've always felt like these ARPA funds probably shouldn't be used to help nonprofits, but at the same time, there's some hefty needs that we've heard about through our nonprofits who are helping our disadvantaged people tremendously. So I propose that we take 10% of the 13.5 million, kind of think of it like a tithe, if you will, in the Christian world, and move that money to help the nonprofits. But keep in mind that we don't have $13.5 million. So I'm just going to name a few and go from there. When I say Lee Conley House, 50,000 this year, 50,000 next year, 25% match, that match would be financial and also volunteer hours and or. Nehemiah, 50-50. Shining Light, 25-25. Christian Service Center, 50 and 50. SMA, 100,000, 100,000. These also would require deliverables to be done, just like Julianne has mentioned, that they would have to fit into some kind of a category. And there would have to be some results from that. Also on Epicure would be 150 and 150. Feed the Need, 50 and 50. Bread of Life, 62.5, 62.5. God's Kitchen, 12.5, 12.5. Farm Workers, 12.5, 12.5. And Turning Table, 12.5 and 12.5. Then going down, I do believe the Educational Foundation could receive a little boost in the arm of 12,500 and 12,500. If these deliverables could not be met by the agencies that are requesting money, then that money could be rolled into other agencies that are providing the services and are providing the deliverables. So right off the bat, that would be about $587,500 per year. That's not quite 10%, but it gives us a little bit of room that we could talk about. The other things I do agree with Commissioner Turner. The communications is the biggest one for me. So I have plugged in a number of $5.5 million the first year and another $500,000 the following year. That would give us up to $6 million. There is a roof at the EOC that's leaking. That's $300,000. That's very important. Where we find that money doesn't have to be ARPA, but it could be. The EOC access is a $30,000 cost. Then the PPE is 120. Extrication tools, 20. Quick response squad's $165,000. And then I made a mistake at the point of sale lockers for the tax collector at $20,000 this year and $18,000 next year. Moving over to the bottom right, you will see the $500,000 in communications, $1.7 million for parks and pools, which we could move that down, and I'll explain that in a minute. Ambulances to $400,000, fire engines $500,000, extrication tools again $20,000, quick response squads that benefit the county $165,000, and the remaining point of sale locker $18,000. IT would get $250,000, water plant would get $222,000. Drainage in flooded areas, when I say that, I don't want to go out and put drainage in areas that are not flooding of $880,000, water lines and sewer at 1.5. So there could be some ways that we could move monies around. I do believe that the water system does need to be self-sustaining. I've said that for years, but it was done before I got here, and I don't know if I would have made a difference anyway. At the time, we needed water in East Palatka, but it is something that has bothered me for years, that we tie that to our Better Place Fund, and if the Better Place plan wouldn't have passed the last time, we would have had to find another source. So I think there's some room that we can help people. I know I've been contacted by some leaders in the community that don't feel like the money to nonprofits is as important. They feel like philanthropy work needs to be done by the person and not by the government. I don't necessarily, again, disagree with that, but I do have a heart for those that are helping our people. And I can tell you, when you go to the grocery store, if you can find what you're looking for, number one, that's one thing. And if you can afford to buy it, it's number two. And it's hard to eat healthy, and we all know that. It's a whole lot cheaper for me to go buy junk food, but that's not good for me. And I think the bottom line there is we're hurting our community in the long run if we can't find a way to help these people that need help right now. Now, does everybody need help that's in those lines? I don't know that, but I'm not the judge of that. And I'm only the judge of how I feel like I am. And I remember my mama stood in a food line when I was a young boy because we needed help. And that block of cheese was important to our family at that moment. But I never stood in the line again. And I told my mom I'm never going to have her stand in the line either. And I went out and worked as a young boy, mowing yards to make money and do what I could do to help her raise 2 kids on her own. But somebody's got to be there for my mama and everybody else's mama out there. Somebody's got to be there to help them get a little helping hand. I'm not saying give them a hand out, just give them a hand up and let them be productive. She went on to be an RN, made good money, and then she passed away at a young age. But that was different. But those responsibilities have stuck with me. And since I'm on it, and I'm going to be on my little soapbox for a minute, when I got appointed by Governor Scott, I try to filter everything through the single mother that has 2 kids. If I can make her life better from this seat, everybody's life gets better. And that's how I try to govern my position here. I don't say that for sympathy. I'm just saying that's how I look at it. So I do believe that there's room that we can help. I believe we should help, but I also believe we need to move this county forward. Communications towers to help our first responders, that's a no-brainer to me. And if we can get our water system in East Palatka, and I don't know how we can pay for all of it at one time, but if we can get that off the burden of the taxpayer, I'm all for that too. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Paul, I think you actually had buzzed in, but you made comments before. I'll go to Jeff. Okay. All right, Commissioner Ross. Okay.
All right, I got a bunch of notes here. The last one I wrote, Harvey's correct. We do need to support these agencies, but the agencies that we're looking to support provide, have a public safety aspect. I told Commissioner Jones, I don't want to go to work tomorrow morning and have a homeless person huddled up on my front step, sleeping there in the cold. It's not something that we want to deal with. We don't deal with it as a commission. We don't do anything whatsoever for homelessness, but we have civic groups and public groups that are willing to go out and take care of this. But this is one of our responsibilities. So we can either shirk our responsibilities and not provide the service, or we can support the people who are providing the services. And, you know, I don't know at what point the state comes in and say, you know, says, tell the commission, y'all need to get Chapter 125 out and reread it, because we owe this to the citizens to provide it. But if we don't provide it and they're providing it, then I feel like we owe it to them to support them. So enough of that for right now. Matt Reynolds, can you talk about the revolving fund, state revolving fund?
Sure.
Is that in any way in play when it comes to utilities right now?
Yeah, when the commission could always, of course, look to the state revolving funds for different projects, but again, there's a different set of requirements in order to apply for those, either under the Clean Water SRF, the CW SRF, or the Drinking Water SRF.
Would that not be in play for what we're talking about expanding the water system?
You could look at doing that, but then, of course, the repayments on that, those
What is the
funds-
interest rates right now?
It depends. I know that the state changed the way that the formula is calculated for the interest rate for the SRF programs, and I'm not sure what the
Last time I
interest
heard it was a percentage of 1%. It wasn't even 1%.
Right, and
think
it
that's
could
still-
be lower than that, and I think that when I was at the county several years ago, we were told that due to the county's socioeconomic status, we may be even close to 0%. So there could be an avenue that you could look at doing that, but the problem is if you're looking at doing ARPA funding for that, you won't be able to use
No,
ARPA
I'm saying
funding for the life.
I'm not discussing ARPA right now.
Just
The
doing all of
conversation
the
was
water
brought
and
up,
sewer.
you know, if we were to go out and borrow $3.5 million to do what we're talking about doing, at, you know, less than 1%.
Yep.
And I want to say it was like 0.25 of 1%.
Right.
That's zero for all intents and purposes.
Mhm.
And then I guess the next question is, once we expend the $3.5 million, what is pledged to getting that money back? Because now, me as a taxpayer, why do I want to spend $3.5 million of my hard-earned tax dollars for somebody in East Palatka unless somebody shows me that there's a way to pay that back?
Correct.
Are we going to force connection is one question. And then the second question, and it's not directed at you, obviously. The second question, Commissioner Turner might be able to answer this, or maybe Mr. Troxel. How many taps do we currently have in front of residences that are not connected? And if we're going to go down the road of running more water lines and connecting people, why would we not take advantage of what they're currently is there, so how many taps are currently not live right now? Is there a number out there anybody can tell me? Okay.
I'm looking at this from a 1,000-foot level and try to make it from a business point, try to make it profitable.
Well,
Sustainable then profitable.
but what's going through my mind is if we have just, Mr. Troxel, can you come up and answer this question?
One thing that we did work on some is that it will not be sustainable if we borrow additional monies to add to the 14 million that we already owe on water and sewer, that the 1,000 taps will not make it profitable. Either put the money in and make it grow and make it sustainable, or continue subsidizing it with tax dollars. Those are our two.
How many taps do you think are currently in place that are not being utilized?
I'd say probably 90% of the homes are tapped that are close to their water lines. There's probably 10% of that. So you're talking maybe 100 folks.
So of all the water lines that we've put out in the entire water system, you think only 10% are not tapped?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I was told the number was much larger than that.
I don't think it is. Well, we've had a lot. I bet we've had 20 in the last 2 months that have came on, brand new
Okay.
ones. So
I guess the point that I'm making is Putnam County was dealt a bad hand just like everybody else was. If COVID had not come along, the conversation that we'd be having right now would be like what we're having right now. There's no COVID money in play. I think Mary Hill's correct. This is probably a once in our lifetime event that we will see this kind of money come in. I also think that next year is going to be worse for them, not better. And the year after that will probably be even worse. As we start to ramp up, increase the number of people that are getting closer to that $15 an hour minimum wage, we're going to increase the amount of people that actually fall into poverty. So I think at that point, the onus will be on the nonprofits that we're discussing to be able to help support our citizens that will be falling on hard times. I don't think it's a matter of if, it's just a matter of when, and I think the when is happening live and in person right now. So I agree with Commissioner Harvey, but I don't agree with his numbers. I think we're about halfway there. I would, you know, and if this is a negotiation session and you're starting low, I'll start high, but I think that we need to look at like Epic here, for instance, we're 300,000. If we threw them another 100,000, the savings that they will get, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, is over $6,000 a month just in rent. Is that correct? Okay, so that's over $72,000 a year. By us making a $400,000 investment, they save $72,000 a year. That money is recouped in 5.5 years. To me, that's a no-brainer. Nehemiah project, I don't know if $100,000 helps them. I don't think it hurts them. They're definitely looking for funding. But what we're talking about is taking money that we're already paying. And I would encourage you guys to attend the Public Safety Coordinating Council meetings and listen to what the discussion we have post-meeting with the group that we have. And what we've realized is we're already spending lots and lots and lots of money to incarcerate people, to house them in jail. Right now, we're running at full capacity. And I asked Captain Serency the other day, where are we at? And he said, as fast as we get rid of them, we get more in, because we don't have an alternative. Part of our responsibility to the community is hospitalization. We need to get the hospital to either put in a mental facility like they used to have here, or help us fund it. And we have the building right there where SMA is housed. SMA has said that they need a little over $1 million to make changes to the building to make that a receiving facility. But if we could also get the hospital to help fund this, then we would have mental care in Putnam County and not have to send our residents out of Putnam County. I don't think these services are going to be used less. I think as time goes on, as more families start to experience the burden that this economy is going to give, and Commissioner Harvey talked about going to the store and not being able to get what you need, and then buying lesser expensive foods. That is a fact. There's no doubt in my mind that people have access to cheap food but not nutritious food, and that's going to create another problem with regards to healthcare. But now, I was speaking to somebody the other day about substance abuse and mental health and homelessness and how it all pretty much goes hand in hand. And when you look at homelessness, it's not the person sleeping under the bridge. It's the person that's sleeping on a friend's couch, or having to move back in with their parents, or living in their car, or whatever. We have young folks that are homeless, and we have adults that are homeless. So that's one problem that I think we need to look at helping to fund these agencies for, because eventually, and nobody on here has homelessness, but there is a conversation that's happening right now in Putnam County regarding taking on that as well. So there's other agencies that have reached out to me that are not on this paper. I personally think that we should be looking to set aside at least half the money. If we set aside $7 million over the next 2 years, if we don't expend it in the second round, then let's look at spending government. But we took advantage of the CARES Act money, and we spent more of it on the government on items that were already funded in our government. We have the money. We take tax dollars from the citizens, and then we're going to take this Arpa money from the citizens, but it's their tax money. We're going to take that and spend it on ourselves on things that we've already committed to, things that were committed to in 2008 and 2015. I think that we really should take a hard look at setting aside $4 or $5 million. There was a list sent out, Nancy Russo requested. There's a lot more than what you have on here, Commissioner Harvey, that are needed. But I'm going to go through a few more of my notes here. One thing I would like to see is us have a sit-down conversation with the city of Palatka as soon as possible. I'm available. I'll make myself available. I think we should quit kicking the can down the road and get this meeting. I think we should take them up on their offer. Let's look what we can do to chipping in our ARPA money, their ARPA money, see what we can do to leverage that.
Okay, if I can stop you right there just for a second. I know these conversations started with Chairman Harvey. They're now with me. The ball's in the city's court.
Okay.
Okay, it's in the city's court, and then I called, Sarah, didn't I call you and said that, and Mayor Hill was gonna email you some dates. I think they're having some issues getting together, but we're gonna do everything we can to meet with them. We're also gonna meet with the city of Crescent City this year, town of Pomona Park, Willaca, and hopefully Interlochen again. We may not meet on.
Well, I mean,
ARPA,
with
but we're
regards
gonna
to
meet with
ARPA
them.
money.
But I believe we need to meet with them, so the ball's in their court right now.
Okay. Well, I think with regards to the ARPA money, we should take a look at what we can do to pull our resources. If the nonprofits, I think if we could slow our roll a little bit, we don't have to make a decision today, obviously. I think if the nonprofits could do an assessment, so Julianne alluded to the fact that some of you guys may not qualify for this money, some of you might, but maybe we look out. Have we reached out to anybody that's asked for money and said, hey, y'all may need to explain exactly what it is y'all do, or where are we at with that?
Kind of getting the cart before the horse, isn't it?
Well, they've
Before
made.
we even decide to give them any money, we want them to apply to see if they.
I think it would be prudent for us to let them explain why they feel like they meet the final rule. I don't think that would be, I think it would be imprudent for us to not do that, because if we said, okay, well, set aside this money that Commissioner Harvey talks about, and you don't meet the conditions of the final rule, then it's just a waste of effort. So that would be putting the onus on them, not on our staff. That's all I'm saying.
But along those lines, would it not be, would you not be able to give a list of the requirements or guidelines so they can get those, so they would know? They could do that on their own,
That's
correct?
what I'm saying, yeah.
So the final
Rather
rule is
than
available to
them getting with
anybody.
you could put it out there on our website, said this is what it would be, but I guarantee you, we're gonna open it up and you got 12 here, there's gonna be 25 more after this meeting, and they see.
Correct.
That we're considering, maybe considering giving some money.
So again, the final rule is available to anyone who wants to read it, as is the current reporting guidance, which would need to be married into the final rule, because it outlines exactly what programmatically would have to be in place in order to be deemed eligible.
So what I'm proposing is that the nonprofits, or whoever's looking to apply for this, take that information and they write a narrative on why they feel like they qualify for this money under the final rule. Then we don't have to do that ourselves. There was a concern raised about whether or not they qualified. I think that would put that to bed.
To be fair, when they submit that, who is it that's going to review those details and programs and determine whether or not they do fit?
So the way the Treasury put this out, it says that even if you've expended money up until now, as long as you meet the intent of the final rule. So what I'm saying is, we put the onus on the NPs to show that they meet the intent. They provide the services, they provide whatever it is they're providing, whether it's brick and mortar or not, and that they qualify. Then they submit that to us, we can review it, and if Sam, I'm assuming is going to be the lead in this, says, nope, I disagree, I don't think they're going to meet, because the question that was raised, I believe, by Commissioner Turner was, what happens if they don't meet the requirement? You know, I don't know that Treasury is going to come back to us and say, they didn't meet the requirement, you owe us the money.
No, they are.
I said, I don't know that they're going to, okay? This thing is as clear as mud. And I think that's the clearest part about this, is there really is a lot of vagueness to it. But I think the folks that we're dealing with, I would venture to say most of them probably have legal staff that they consult with every now and then. They would be able to review this and see if they even qualify at all, and then come in and plead their case to us. If we just go in and start writing checks based on what's on paper here, we might be making a mistake. So all I'm saying is, let's put the onus on them. We did the same thing in the CARES Act. People came in and said they had to prove why they needed to get money for rent or for electricity reimbursement, blah, blah, blah. United Way was the ones that were feeling that. But So one of the questions I wrote, have we asked any of the nonprofits for any of their specific qualifications? I guess the answer to that's no. These charities are needed, and if they don't provide the services, and I really hate to use the word charities because really the services are needed, and if they're not providing it, we're going to be forced to provide it, or somebody in the community is going to be forced to provide it, whether they have the money or not. We really have to get our heads wrapped around the fact that today's needs are at a low point. I think a year from now, we're going to be at a greater need. And if anybody thinks that taking federal dollars is not taking tax dollars, or are not my tax dollars at least, I would say you're mistaken, because I pay taxes. They go to the county, the city, the state, and the federal government. If they come back in, it's still tax dollars that were generated from taxpayers. So that's what we're talking about, is taxpayers' dollars. Just so we're clear, the proposal on the $3.5 million, we're going to force people to connect to the water system once it's in place. Is that my understanding? If we put 1,000 taps out there, are we?
The current plan, until it's talked about, and I don't know today's the time to talk about it, but the current plan would be to, if I may, Mr. Chairman, the current plan would be to have them hook up at our expense to a certain date, and we fund it to that date. The next thing we need to do is, in my opinion, would be to pass an ordinance that tells the health department they can't issue any more well permits in an area where water's available. That would be next step. Someday, somebody's gonna have to hook on, but I don't know that you have to do it in one step, do it right now, or with an iron fist, we're going after you. I think you can do it and try to get it compliant a much better, well-meaning way than that. That would be my suggestion.
All right. Commissioner Harvey said that, at one point, it was said that if BPP didn't pass, we would still have to fund this. What I'm saying is, take COVID out of the equation for a minute. If we were to be able to unring the bell and go back 2 years ago, Putnam County was in a different place. Cost of goods sold was much lower. Our shelves were much better stocked. We didn't have the quote-unquote pandemic and the environment that we've been living in for the past 2 years. So I think we really should deliberately look at taking this money that was given to us because of COVID and not using it for anything that's currently funded. We were already replacing our communication system before COVID hit. Do we have to spend $9 million? No. And some of the folks I've talked to lately, we can spend far less than that and still have a communication system that works. Do we have to spend $3.5 million? No. Could we borrow it? Yes. The pledged revenue from Better Place Plan or from the general fund, it's all tax dollars. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And if we didn't get the ARPA money, we would still be moving forward with these projects. I think that, and I've been saying this for a long time, the county commission needs to look at better funding the community. We have gone years after years after years without raising revenue. And you can make the argument, well, our housing prices have gone up, but the housing prices and the tax collected is not keeping pace with inflation right now. It's not going to keep pace with the debt, the burden that we're going to have when it comes to paying our staff, let alone keeping people up. If y'all took a look at what our pay was, you would probably be very disappointed. We have a lot of folks that make $13 an hour and less. Even at $15 an hour, all we're doing is we're resetting what the definition of poverty is. So from $15 to $18 or $19 an hour 4 years from now, we're going to have a larger expanse of people impoverished, and I think you guys are going to suffer the wrath of that. That's just what I feel is going to happen based on what I've seen over the past year and a half, 2 years, and we're just really starting to feel this pinch of the inflation. 7% last year. Yesterday the stock market tumbled. There's a lot of talking heads that are saying that we're probably in for a 10 to 15% reset on the stock market. That's not going to do us any good as citizens either. So I stand in favor. If we can push that to $4 million, I would say that would be a good starting number, but like Commissioner Pickens said, I think more people are going to come to the table. We have the need in the community. I don't think this is a cash giveaway. I don't think we're just, throwing money away. I think we need to be good stewards to what's entrusted to us. I think we need to take a look at our public safety, our health and welfare, and equate that into the conversation that we're having. I'm done. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Adamczak.
So, I guess 125, I think, is very broad, first of all. So it doesn't really go, I mean, even if you read into it, and I read into it when I was running for this office, trying to figure out what my requirements are as a commissioner, and I really kind of didn't look at it a lot until Commissioner Rawls started talking about it from the dais. And it doesn't give us a lot of direction on how to fulfill those, right? It just says you should do this, this, and this. I'm going to look at this at a completely different view, which I'm with Commissioner Turner. I do not believe that taxpayer money should come into the county and then go back out to not-for-profits, unless, just like if taxpayer money comes in and goes out to a for-profit, unless that not-for-profit is meeting a need that the county is supposed to fulfill through Section 125 or otherwise. Many of these cases, I think that is the case. But I think what would be in our best interest as a county government, is the five of us, as we sit here today, would be to outline where we think those needs are and put them out to the different not-for-profits and have them tell us what they can fulfill. I think that would be the better way to go about this. We know that we don't have a homeless shelter. That would be something, if someone could fulfill that, maybe we could help fund part of that. We know that we don't have, there's numbers of all this stuff. There's numbers per 100,000 people, you should have 40 to 50 beds for mental wellness in any jurisdiction. So per 100,000, so we have 75,000 people thereabouts. So we know we need somewhere between 30 to 40. We have basically none today. So maybe we shoot to have 15. So maybe we put that out there as one of our needs. Who can establish a 15-bed center, and what is the necessity for that? And we could partake in part of that. I'm not for this just putting money out there to put it out there. I also think the other way we look at it too is if Epicure, let's say for example, says, well, in 2019, 2018, we were operating at this, we saw this spike due to COVID. If they could justify those differences from, March of last year forward, that difference, I think we do have the opportunity to cover some of those expenses without going through all the rigmarole of the difference, the way I read it, because I read a lot of that document in the final rule. I haven't read the whole thing because it's too much for me, but I read mostly for the not-for-profit stuff. I think that allows us to actually fulfill the holes where the not-for-profits overspend. Sheila McCoy laid out, basically she knows what those numbers are for last year and this year. We can't do anything since March of last year, but we should fill that, and then we should project out for the next year. So 2021 from March till today, and then 2022, we know that she's serving the community. The purpose of what Arpa says right in its thing, that's one of the purposes, is to help with rents and utilities and all that stuff. She already did some of that. She did some of that legwork for what Arpa's intent is. I think that's how we should go about it. And then the other thing is that I'm all for a central repository, whether we call it a community center, whether we call it, however we call it. We have this whole part of this building out here in the middle that I think we have done the whole roof, correct? Or we haven't done the roof over the middle section? Maybe we look into making that, instead of looking out and partnering with the city and the school district to find a building, which was my other idea, to utilizing that for a repository, for a clearinghouse for different not-for-profits to come and utilize. There's not-for-profits that only need to use an office for 5 hours in a month. There's not-for-profits that need somewhere to sit every day. We have all this vacant space that is unused, and maybe utilize that to recover that building and utilize it for that repository, because right now it's just sitting there. Those are my ideas. If we can get 1 and 2A done, again, I would like to see us talk with the other communities that have water systems before we do that, just to make sure that that's the densest area. I know it's the densest area of what the county system has, but the county system only has one area, so it's kind of hard to get past that. So I think there are dense areas, like if you get to the other side of the hospital and then back towards Penn Isle and some of those areas where there is well and septic where the city system could expand. There's dense areas on the outskirts of Crescent City where their city could expand. There's dense areas if you get behind Interlochen and going past Larry's house up that way that are dense. I mean, there are opportunities if we partnered. And again, if those agencies weren't willing to do some, if we're putting forward the money to do the infrastructure, they're not willing to do some revenue sharing, then it's a moot point. But if they are, and it's equitable, and I'm not saying we take all the revenue, we share it. And maybe it's not as cost favoring to us as our own system, but it maybe services more people, and that's where I think our goals should be. I don't have numbers that I've put to any of this because I think that we have to know what we want from the agencies and then have them come back and say what those numbers are. These are all swags. Everything that everyone's brought to us is a swag for the most part. Outside Epicure, you want to buy a building. I'm not for purchasing a building if you own the building, if the county owns the building. We have buildings, I think, that could meet some of your needs. And yeah, it sucks that you guys put freezers and fridges in an area. Maybe we got to help you move them. That's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Mr. Turner?
Okay, one of the biggest deals here that we need to look at, if you give money to a nonprofit or a charity or whatever you want to call them, it's tomato. But if you want to give money to them, that's going to help them this year, and it's going to help the people that do this year. You go make the water system in East Palatka sustainable, and you help somebody from now till hell freezes over. That's the difference. A one-time shot in the arm to the community versus helping the taxpayers for the rest of their lives, because they no longer have to put money in as long. They no longer have to do it. I think that's what we need to do. I'm trying to not be the hard-hearted guy here, because I believe thoroughly in what not almost, every single one of the people that have come in here and asked for money, I believe in what they do. I give money to a lot of them personally, but that's me deciding where my money goes. It's not the five of us being a socialist and deciding that we know better than the people know how they should spend their money. I'm not for that. I don't have a socialist bone in my body. I'm just about as conservative as you can get. And I believe that's pure socialism, is what I believe that is. Whenever we are arrogant enough up here to believe that we know how to spend the taxpayers' money in charity better than they do. That goes all the way back to the fundamental Ronald Reagan years, when a conservative Republican, I just don't understand how a conservative Republican can think about taking tax dollars and giving it to charity instead of, you want to give money to charity? Write a check. Write a check out of your own pocket. I do it all the time to different charities we support. But it's me deciding how my money gets spent to that charity. It's not the government giving that money out. I think that the one thing we have to be real careful of here, and we talked about it in the CARES Act, and it's also transfers into this. If we give money to a nonprofit or a charity that we get nothing for as a county, and we give it to them incorrectly, we got to pay that money back. We're on the line for it, not the charity. So if they don't fit later, they change the rules later, if they do whatever later and they're not forgiven, the county's on the line for that money. So we give it away once and we got to pay it back to Arpa, so we got to pay for it twice, and the county still didn't get any services back to the county for it. So I think that needs to be part of it, that we go in here. I don't have a problem with looking at different ways to do things. Can we did look at, could we borrow the money to make the system sustainable? I can't see where I can borrow my way out of this one. Just can't see it. probably could be done if you had enough client base or you got big enough, but the money's just, I haven't been able to make the numbers work so far and put a pencil to it. And it just hasn't worked. We may could redo a bond here or a bond there or whatever. I just don't know that it's gonna, so far, Susan and Julie hasn't been able to show me an advantage that's worth going through the motions when you're all done. You know, it could be that, like Commissioner Adams Act said, that if the reason for doing this is to get it out of Better Place plan, okay. Like Matt said, we could always pay the bill out of the general fund and not out of Better Place, but I don't know that USDA Rural Development is gonna let us move it over and not keep the Better Place plan as collateral on the loans. I just don't believe they're gonna let us do that. Anyhow, that's definitely something to look at, though, and a very valid conversation to have. Just so far, I've kind of had that conversation with them, and they haven't been able to show me an advantage yet. If we could possibly, today, I know that we're not gonna make decisions on this goes there to there or whatever. Could we at least try to get the staff to where they don't have to wonder where we're gonna fund the $250 that we've already told them we'll fund for the water system upgrades? And we already told them that we'd fund the 106 out of the Better Place for the communications tower consultant. So if we could just go on and tell them once and for all that we're either gonna fund the $250 out of Arpa where they can go on with that before we have a system breakdown and it costs half that much money for a temporary fix, so we could move that project forward. And we think it's gonna be about $250, so I think we can fund it. If you don't wanna fund it out of ARPA, then we need to fund it out of reserves, but that project needs to move here today. We've jacked around with it for 2 months now.
Okay.
How much do we have in reserves today?
Unencumbered. Unencumbered?
Yeah, unencumbered, well,
Roughly 11.
and what are we required to have, 6 point something? I make a motion that we fund it out of general fund reserves.
What is the,
State the whole
Specifically,
motion.
250,000 for the water, I guess we're repairing it, correct?
Okay, we got a proper motion to fund, what are the dollar amounts again, so we can have them on record?
Commissioner Terms at 250,000?
Yeah, that's what the projected is on it at the moment.
So not to exceed 300,000.
Okay, we've got a proper motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, got a second, any discussion on this?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Commissioner Rawls was next, so I'm gonna go to
Well,
him.
we
You're
can
fine.
go and dispense with the motion first. I'm coming from a different angle.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
I don't really have a problem with this, but I think we should fund it out of ARPA at this point. Really, it's 250,000 out of 14 million. We're not gonna give it all to charity. I don't believe any of y'all are gonna get that by this board, that you're gonna give it all to charity. So I think that we need to go on and fund it. That's exactly what this thing needs to fund, is these kind of projects. So I have no problem voting to fund it today. I just kind of think we should do it out of ARPA. We could always, if we ran short on ARPA money later on, use reserves after. But I think we should spend the ARPA money, then talk about reserves.
Yeah, and also, I know this is a lot of money, but in the scheme of things, it's not a lot of money in this project, correct? So anyway, this money can be used from the ARPA, correct?
Yes.
If we took it out of general funds, we have less restrictions, if any, on that. We use it at our discretion. Is that correct, Julianne? Is that a nod? So I believe we need to take it out of the ARPA.
If I could say something.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls?
We were looking at paying for this when I first got elected. We knew that we had maintenance coming up on the water system. I think Commissioner Adams is right. Let's just go ahead and get the money expended. I do agree that we need to do the study. So the $106,000 on that and the $250,000 for the water plant. I really think that's money well spent out of our reserves. If we want to reimburse ourselves back later, but I do think that we should sit down with the city before we start spending money and also look at what we're going to do for the essential services that, we've had requested before we start expending money. That's all. It's, again, it's same pot of money, same pile of money. And Commissioner Turner's right. We need to get the repairs of the water plant going as soon as possible.
Chairman?
Julian?
Yeah, I apologize. Just a little point of clarity. The board has already engaged the consultant under ARPA funding at the board's direction. And while, yes, ultimately you can move all these pots of money, it's going to be much more efficient on your staff's time if you can identify your funding source, because it drives procedure. So switching the funding source
You're talking about the,
multiple times is going to be not advantageous for any of us. The ARPA, the consultant for the comm system, the 106, has already been approved by the board.
right.
Contract
That wasn't part of the
signed,
motion.
PO set. It was brought into the motion. So just to clarify that item.
That's not part of the motion.
Yeah, it's not part of the motion.
Okay, Commissioner Adamsack, you have another comment?
Yes, so I'll say this, due to the urgency of this, and I think it is urgent, and I think it's been carried for a while, just listening to meetings in the past, and the meetings that I've been in, I just think we need to do that one out of general fund reserves, get it done. I think there's further discussions we need to have about ARPA before we make any decisions with the money. And I just don't think we're quite there yet, and because we want to get this project off its feet, I really think we should just go with general fund reserves. Again, we have about $5 million, a little bit over $5 million in general fund reserves available over what we're required to carry. I'd love to see us give some of that back to the taxpayers personally, but if we're not, I think this is an example of where we can utilize it for something that's absolutely needed, that would be needed whether ARPA was here or not.
Commissioner Turner?
I do support funding this project. I just don't support funding it out of general reserves. We can always use the general reserves, and they're much less restrictive later on than what ARPA funding is. So when something comes up, we can use that money. So while I do believe we should move this forward and what have you, I'm not going to be able to support the reserves on this particular item. Thank you.
Commissioner Rawls?
I think Commissioner Adamsack's right. We were discussing this a year ago. ARPA money wasn't even around at the time. I do support the $3.5 million for the water system in totality, whether it comes out of another loan or out of ARPA money. I think that you're absolutely correct, Commissioner Turner. We need to get that off of my back so I don't have to pay for somebody else's water bill in East Palatka. I understand how people feel in the community about that, but as far as this goes with the water system and the repairs that are needed right now, I apologize, I misspoke. I thought the motion was the 106,000 and the 250,000. So it was just the 250 for the water system. I'm fine with that, and I would be fine with it coming out of ARPA money if we were ready to start making decisions. I think instead of bleeding the ARPA funds in drips and drabs, I think we should have a conversation about all of it at one time. But at this point, I think we can move forward, spend the money out of reserves, and we're good to go.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
Well, personally, I don't need the city to tell me how to spend the ARPA money. I think I have the ability to do it on my own. I don't mind meeting with them. I welcome that, but I don't think we ought to hold county business because the city decides they want to drag out the meetings. I can't get there. Sorry, I just can't get there. I don't need the city to tell me what to do. So, Mr. Chairman, call for the motion and either pass or not.
Okay, we've got a proper motion, a proper second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion does not pass.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we take the $256,000 out of ARPA funds to pay for that water plant.
Okay,
I'll second that.
got a proper motion or got a proper second. We'll open this up for discussion.
Should we dispense with this at a regular meeting, or?
So it was all right to do it whenever you were going to get your way, but now that it's
That's-
our way, we got to dispense with it later on.
That's general fund money that was we've already discussed. This is something completely different.
All right,
I think the venue matters.
Okay, all right, we have proper motion or proper second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same sign.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 3-2, motion passes. Okay. Any other commissioner comments?
I was trying to get, that's why I had my line on earlier, was
Okay.
trying to get past that. So, where I am, I think we have a lot of need in the community. On the BOCC side, obviously, we have a lot of need. On the public side, there's a lot of need. I think there's a lot of money right here that we can do a lot of good with. And so I think maybe we could go ahead and set another meeting date as soon as possible to discuss, letting the public come to us, getting a list compiled, maybe put out a call, give the public a week or two to get back with us on what their requests might be so we can get a real look at that, and then set up another meeting as soon as possible and include the city of Palatka to discuss the expenditures of the ARPA money.
Commissioner Harvey?
I appreciate that, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for calling upon me. I really have heard a lot from the community, and we've had these meetings. I think it really is time to decide, this board decide, are we going to fund any type of nonprofits and mental substance and violence abuse programs? Are we going to fund any educational? And then where do we whittle down the projects that we want? I think we heard today that I've heard consensus on communication. I'd like to get that number wrapped up, and we got money sitting here and there we might could work with. And I'm not opposed to moving on my proposal that I sent out. This was just a conversation starter, but there's money built in for water lines and sewer, and there's money built in for parks and pools that we could pull from and gather money together. But I think it's time that this board at the next meeting just decide where we're going to go. And it's really as simple as this: communications tower, water, and are we going to do any nonprofits? And in my opinion, I think that's as simple as we can get. I would love to get these other things done, but for me today, voting on the water plant, I had already put it into next year's ARPA funds, so that was an easy lift for me. I only put 222 in, but surely another 34,000 didn't hurt anything. So I think that's what we got to start at the next meeting, and we really need to kind of bring this in for a landing as soon as possible, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Commissioner Turner?
Well, I do think we need to bring this in for a landing as soon as we can, at least the basic principles here, because I think we have all ends of the spectrum here. We have from me, who is not wanting to give any money to charity. I want to take all the money and use it for all the citizens of Putnam County instead of a small percentage. And we have that to everywhere from, I think, what Mr. Rawls said, and I'm certainly not trying to put words in his mouth, that he'd like to see half or more of it go to charitable spending. So anywhere in between, I think you're having, that. So, yeah, at some point, I think we are gonna have to decide because nobody knows what to do or where to go right now. I think the communication system, and I think and the latest numbers I heard are not 5.5 or 6. They're more with the new tower that's got to be put up. I'd be willing to bet you lunch that it's closer to 7 if we're lucky, because things are going up so fast, and $3 or $4 million of this are the actual radios that you got to buy to go with this system, or it doesn't work, because our existing radios don't work. I don't know what the last time you went to the store and tried to buy something, but you could go to Home Depot and buy a shovel, and it cost double what it did 2 years ago. So much less anything else in there. So I'm just telling you, the faster we get this going, the better off we're going to be, because this stuff's going up every single day, and I bet you 7 million doesn't cover it. So going to 6, we're just wishing stuff that's not true. So, if we did communication system, we all agreed that we wanted the sustainability, or at least move some in that direction. I'd like to see us say, okay, we're gonna go there, we're gonna take, if y'all decide to do it, to take some of the money, I'd still like to get 1A moving. If we could get 1A moving, or one, I think it is, phase one.
Right.
Because that's the area that we have the grant on to do the sewer. We need to like do all that at one time. We need to do the water and the sewer, and that's gonna be real close to sustainability on the sewer, and then on the water side of it, it'll get us a lot closer to it. And then some of that money needs to be pulled aside to hook up people for no cost to the existing system and to the new system, and try to get as many people on there as we can, and that's gonna be key to this working. Within the next 6 months or a year, we go, or whatever they decide, you can sign up for free. You wait after that, it's gonna cost you $2,000 like it does now, or whatever it costs. I don't know what it is, but there's a tap fee and there's all this other stuff. We'll do it all under our deal, so it'll save you a bunch of money. So I know that if I lived on the trunk line and my well was pumping sand or something that I had a filter on, or if somebody said, well, I'll hook you up for free, sign me up. Where's the bottom line at? I'll sign, cause $80 a month or 70 or whatever it is, 60, I'm good. I'm good because you got good water from then on. It's not your responsibility. So I'm with you, Commissioner Harvey. I think we need to just say, I think we need to go on and say, okay, we don't have to fund it all, but we need to fund this part. And that would be, let's go ahead and decide that we're gonna do the communication system, that we're gonna do the at least phase one, and that would still give us, on the stuff I said a while ago, 650 plus another 254, that's gonna give us over $3 million to decide what to do later, and we're not dragging the thing out. We got phase one started, we can start on the engineering and move forward, and that's the area with the sewer grant that we already have, and that would also allow us to move forward. So we voted on the 356, the 250 a minute ago, and we'd already voted on the 106. So we need 3.5 basically to move forward with phase one on the sewer. And like I said, I think you're gonna have to call 7.
Water, phase on
Yeah,
water.
excuse me, thank you for the correction. The water, phase one of the water. And if we went ahead and moved that forward, and then we went ahead and moved forward, the communication system, and I think you need to go 7 with the caveat that there's $1 million in the Better Place Fund that's included in that 7. So do we pay for $1 million of it out of the Better Place, or do we do this? So even if we did that out of Better Place at the moment, and we use the number 6, like you came up with earlier, that would give us $9,500,000 plus we still have over $4 million that we could decide on later to do other stuff with, but that'll let staff move forward with those 2 items, which is try to get phase one started and try to get the engineering done on it, and it would also let them move forward with the communications RFQ once they get the consultant gets finished with it in there. They know it's gonna fund, and they know the other one's gonna fund. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we fund phase one of the water system, and at a price of $3.5 million, and that we fund the communication system at a price of $7 million, with the only caveat being that we might pay for $1 million of that out of Better Place at a later time, but for now it would be 7 out of ARPA. That's my motion.
Okay, we got a proper motion by Commissioner Turner. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a second by Commissioner Harvey, and we will start. I'm sure it'll be a pretty good discussion. Okay, you want to go ahead with a question? I'm going to go to Commissioner Rawls after you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I second it because I do want to have this discussion. I wish we would have waited just another meeting, but that's okay. Julianne or Matt, maybe, I'm sorry, Mr. Reynolds, I should have referred to you as the proper term.
Perfectly fine, sir. Matt is my name, so.
No, it's
But
fine.
young Reynolds.
You earned the title and you deserve
Young Mr. Reynolds?
Young Reynolds.
Kim, since we only have $6.75 million right now, can we go ahead and pay for things and then pay us back out of ARPA funds? See, that's the question. If we're going to expend $9 million today, we don't have $9 million in ARPA funds. So that's my question.
Be about 10 and a half, but it wouldn't be paid for a couple of years.
Well,
I'm sorry, I thought you were asking me.
We do have, we've already received the first actual disbursement of 7.3 million? 7.36 million, something like that, something in that ballpark range. So we do have the majority of that cash in hand. I would be very wary about doing something like that because of, well, there's a multitude of reasons. The federal government may not like that. I know that they put in the final rule that we can replace revenues, but I think it would probably be more prudent, since we do have 7.3 million in hand. These sort of projects obviously take a substantial amount of time, so there would be, it's not like we would be immediately spending all of those funds where we would have to dip into our own monies to be able to do so.
But I don't want to overcommit either on, and that's what my concern is. So maybe we pick off the big one now, the communication tower or whatever, and we start on that since we know that we got the money for that. And then we wait on the other one to come in, and then it doesn't look like we've overextended ourselves. Even though it's going to take a couple years, I get that, but we don't have that money right now. That's the key. That's what I want to have.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of I think there's a couple different ways you could do it. You might even be able to put that in the motion that, you know, you're tentatively allocating the total project, but you're only allocating at this time up to the amount that we have received so far that we have in hand. Yeah, if Rich was here, I'm sure he could come up with a whole bunch of different ways
The good part
to
about
modify the
doing
motion,
that
build
would
that
be to
in.
let the staff go ahead and start the projects
Right.
where we can get in under the timeline.
Right.
That's what we're really trying to do.
Okay, Julianne, you have a comment?
Yes, sir. So your second payment is expected, no later than June, July of this year, and there is potential we could request the funds up front. Although if we haven't expended them, they may not necessarily want to front us additional funding. Today's allocation of dollars is nothing more than what we do when we budget for the next fiscal year, right? Revenues haven't been received, but we're budgeting for them in theory. The water project, you're only going to spend a very small portion of that on engineering and designing before that second payment comes in. So I don't see where you're derelict in any duty and or negligent in going ahead and allocating the projects if so the board chooses to do so.
Since I still have the floor,
Okay, keep
Matt.
going.
Well, maybe the motion could be amended where it could say fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22. And, well, okay, 22 and 23, whatever the case, 21, 22, and 22, 23. Maybe that could be clarified where, I just don't want to get us in trouble where we're overcommitting today. That's all. Because I can't vote for it like that.
I don't mind changing the motion, Mr. Chairman, if I don't understand what Commissioner Harvey's asking it to change to. Are you saying that we will not commit over 7 million towards these projects until the actual money arrives? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
I would like to amend my motion, Mr. Chairman, to cover that.
Okay, will you amend your second?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
excuse
You
me.
amend your second, okay. State the motion again. Your new statement. I hate to put you on the spot like this, but I
Who,
want to.
me?
Yeah.
Oh, I can do it. I can do anything for you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, $7 million for the communication system, $3.5 million for the Phase 1 water system, and that we're only going to spend towards engineering and getting the project started up to the limit of the money that we already have. We will not overspend the money that we already have.
Okay, you got a proper motion? Got a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay, proper second by Commissioner Harvey. Are you done with questioning your comments? Commissioner, I was going to go to you, Commissioner Rawls.
I can't support this unless we're going to include the remaining money for the services that we've discussed this morning. The remaining $4 million. Set it aside for that, so we can take a look at their needs over the next year or so, and I'm saying over the next 2 fiscal years, this fiscal year, next fiscal year.
You're talking about the needs of
I'm saying
the nonprofits? Is that
right
what you're
now,
talking about?
only thing we're talking about is taking care of the government on issues that we've been talking about for the past 3 years, pre-COVID. Excuse me, so,
That's not accurate.
it's accurate. We've had a
just
problem.
came up with this
Wait,
water
wait,
system
wait,
last
wait, wait,
week.
wait.
The
let him
water
finish.
system, I campaigned on having to pay for water bills for people that I didn't, that in places that I didn't live. This goes back to way before 2018, but I could support this if we amend the motion to include the remaining money of the ARPA funds to be set aside strictly for funding the services like we've discussed this morning.
I will not amend my motion to state that.
All right, Commissioner Adamsack?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm adamantly against this the way that it stands today, and I'm not against either project, and I do believe that especially the communications tower has been something that the county has failed to provide the communication system for over a decade. It's been obsolete for a long time. The water system, it needs to become, I'm all for the water. If you had just done the water system, I probably would get there. We're taking monies that basically to fund things that we failed to do, which was what we should have been doing for a decade. So it's not just this commission, it's for a decade. The water system, there's a lot of bad decisions in the past to even take on some of the stuff. The sewer system as well. And most of us weren't even here when most of that stuff happened. So we are trying to put a Band-Aid on something that we inherited. And so I just want to be clear on that. It's not like we all are in agreement that we need to fix this. I just don't know that ARPA is where the money should come from. I absolutely believe that there is going to be more money coming from the federal government that absolutely will be able to be utilized for water and sewer. I can't get there, and my closing comments, I thought I was going to say them, but I'll wait. But where do we come from? And the only reason why I'm going to say this now is because it does apply, because we're basically using up almost all the money. At what point do we as a commission say that we're going to have a proper hospital? We don't have a proper hospital. We don't have a maternity ward. We don't have things like that. That is stuff that we could work with HCA on with ARPA funds, even though they're a for-profit, not a not-for-profit. That's something we could put out there that's saying, hey, can you do a maternity ward? What would that take for us to do? We could work with SMA. Hey, what does it take to get 14 beds here for mental health? We could work with Nehemiah Project or Lighthouse to say, what does it take to get 10 beds here or 20 beds here for substance abuse? We can work with all of them, all the different people that are feeding people. And again, I like the idea of having a centralized location where we distribute from, that maybe different not-for-profits utilize it on an as-needed basis. Or maybe we have an anchor not-for-profit, an Epicure or otherwise, or Epicure SMA, something like that. I don't know what that looks like, because this is the first discussion we're having as a board. I think it's a little premature to jump into spending $8 million when this is our first official discussion. Keep in mind, everyone, that we do not have the opportunity to discuss this amongst ourselves till we're here. So that's why it does seem contentious at times, and it's not because we're contentious at one another. So I want to be clear about that. It's because we're all expressing our views to one another for the first time today. So to vote on it today is the first time we're expressing our views openly and actually having real conversation to this extent seems a little premature to me, and I can't support it. Thank you.
Call for question.
Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you. I do want to go back to, previous boards did what they felt like they needed to do to get projects up and running. And I don't want to say it was a mistake. It's part of what we all, and when we're all gone, somebody will look at us and say the same thing. I do want to say, though, I think this is just landing 2 planes today. I don't believe, we haven't thrown out that the other ones, the nonprofits, could still possibly get funding. We've had robust considerations about that today, but that's not over with yet. And the other items that are needed, we haven't whittled those down yet. But we're just bringing 2 planes in for landing that can help the citizens of Putnam County. Number one, our public safety officers deserve a communications system that they can talk on and be safe with. And I sat in these chambers and listened to a police officer in Rolling Hills right back here who couldn't get out and couldn't get for help. That's unacceptable. Yes, maybe we should have been doing that, but when I got here, our reserves were depleted and we were building them back up, and we've been very prudent about building our reserves up and trying to lower our tax rate on the people. So this is an opportunity where we can finally take a big bite of an apple and clear up a big problem that we have in the county. Yes, the water plant over in East Palatka, maybe that should be self-sufficient with the people that are using it, but right now it's draining on our general fund, and if we can get that off of there, then I'm in support of that. And in my proposal, I did have money there for it. I might not have had enough, but truly I did. But these are only 2 planes, and we haven't shut the door on the rest of the conversation. I hope we can continue having another meeting where we can talk about the remaining pots of money and where we can use that at. And I'm sure with our chairman, we will have that conversation. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay. Mr. Rawls?
I'm just going to reiterate, I think we're really putting the cart before the horse here. Commissioner Armzak's right. We have no reason to be in a hurry today. You know, the water plant repairs have already been approved. Moving forward with 1 and maybe 2A can or cannot, may or may not happen right now. I don't think that we should not be in a hurry right now, but I'm personally disappointed that the commission is not taking things slow enough. And I really think that we owe it to the public, not just the public itself, but for public safety and for our public welfare, that we're not giving more consideration to what we were asked for by these groups. I think they provide an invaluable service, and I think that this is a disservice to them if this motion passes. I'll be voting against it.
Commissioner Adams-Ack?
I just wanted to add one more comment. We're talking about utilizing a large portion of this money to benefit a few thousand citizens out of 75,000. I understand the long-term idea that financially benefits the rest of the citizens banks on the fact that this commission, every future commission, never goes and utilizes that pot of money for other things. And I just haven't witnessed that in watching the history of this commission, not this commission, but the county commission of Putnam County over 10 years of meetings that I've watched every one of them, where that has ever happened, where they've ever pulled back and said, hey, we saved the people this money, now we're giving it back, or we're doing that has never happened. We've never gone back on the trim rate. That's never happened. So for us to sit here and say that the goal is to do that, and then to say we're going to somehow save the whole community, 75,000 people, for something that's benefiting 3,000 people, I call BS on that, because it's never happened. Now, maybe when we start acting like it's going to happen and we actually do it, then we're setting a precedence to this county commission, this group of conservative county commissioners, like Mr. Turner likes to say so aggressively, trying to say the rest of us aren't conservative somehow. And whether that doesn't matter, that's neither here nor there, is absurd, because we've never actually taken a step to roll trim back to the trim notice rate. We've never taken a step to lower taxes for the people of Putnam County. And the idea that this facade, that there's money to be saved for the whole to benefit 3,000 is BS. Thank you.
Mr. Turner?
I'm not even going to respond, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity. That was just ridiculous.
Okay.
I know.
We got a proper motion and a proper second on the floor. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign.
Aye.
Okay, it passes 3-2. Okay, Commissioners, when would you like to meet again?
It's up to you, Mr. Chairman, whenever you call.
I'm
me.
loose that day,
Third Tuesday, let's set the third Tuesday in February?
Okay.
We'll just
9
set
a.m. or-
that. Wait a minute. Can we do that? Is that not when special magistrate is?
I think you're right.
Well, special magistrate might need to move out of our
Now,
room.
there's a issue, and it would be better for us to change the date than to change them.
Than to upset
Or
Mr.
Wednesday.
Magistrate.
Thursday, Wednesday?
Yes.
Go Wednesday or whatever, Monday, Wednesday, it doesn't.
What's the date? What's the date of that?
Is this the Board of County Commissioners room, or is this a special magistrate's room?
But
Well,
we're meeting on the 25th, which is next Tuesday already, so.
Now, looking or listening to staff, the schedule's pretty full. And then staff is headed to Tallahassee that afternoon, because we got rural days and they're going up a day early so they can do some meetings Wednesday morning, I believe.
I mean, I'm just saying, that day, we're here.
Let's do it the third Wednesday then.
On the 16th,
Good
I
for
will
me.
not be in town.
Could do it in the evening.
How about the 9th,
How about the 9th, February 9th?
the day after the board meeting?
This is the third
Good with the
Wednesday.
9th.
February 9th.
This is the third
9th, I
Wednesday.
would be good. I'll be out of town that next week.
I'm good with that. You good?
February what?
9th?
And what day is that? I don't have a calendar.
It's a
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
It's the second Wednesday.
Okay, we
The
have,
day,
a meet-
we have a meeting on Tuesday, the
On
8th.
On the 8th, but
Why don't we just do it on the 8th?
we got regular work to do.
I think it deserves
Okay.
a special meeting.
9 a.m.?
9, good with everybody?
Should be.
Okay, on the 9th, February. Okay. All right, Commissioners, will, if there's no,
I'd like to add my comment because I didn't have it.
okay.
You didn't get enough?
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see
had
you
Commissioner
ringing.
Comments
I
that I
don't
wanted
want
to
to
do.
have no cheek left, Commissioner.
You kind of interrupted it with emotion and stuff. I do want to convey, like I said earlier, this is the first time that we've been able to sit down and speak about this as a group. So we are hearing these things. Do I think it's premature to make the votes we did? Yes. Do I necessarily disagree with them? I'm not really sure because I don't think the timing was right, but that's just my opinion. The majority of the board felt otherwise. But what I do want to say is this, is with this ARPA funds, everything that we heard today was deliberate, did have a reason for why doing it. Even things I disagree with doing it with this funding still had a deliberate reason, and that's what we need to make sure of, is that we're deliberate with what we use this money for, that it has an end result, that whether we all agree that it benefits the masses or benefits a few, but that has an end result that was measurable. All the things talked about, whether it was stuff for not-for-profits, stuff for the water system, stuff for the communications tower, does have end user benefits and does help move the county forward. The question I have is what funds should be used for what. That's neither here nor there, I guess, because it's already passed. And I didn't know we were going to have a motion when I had my speech going to what I was going to talk about. But I do want to let everyone know that we are working up here as a group, consolidated with the same goals, just the different ways to get there necessarily don't always mesh together. My only concern is, if we're going to start saying, and I'm separating the not-for-profit thing, because I don't care if I partner with a not-for-profit or a for-profit. Partnering with someone that's going to help us move county goals forward, regardless of what they're not-for-profit. It's not giving to charity if you're giving to someone that's helping, if you're partnering with someone who already has the resources and the manpower invested and is already doing the work, to augment them to do more work that's in the needs of the county based on what we're required to do, whether it's, like I said, supplying beds, supplying a homeless shelter, supplying food to the needy, or supplying educational opportunities for people that are in need of that. That is part of what we're supposed to do. Whether it's a not-for-profit or for-profit that we partner with is irrelevant. I am not for a charitable donation of taking taxes and giving back as a charitable donation. I will not vote yes for any of the organizations unless they show that it's for a need, that it's something we're supposed to be doing. And I think the majority of you have shown that on paper. Maybe we got to do a little bit more just to meet the needs. of the government beyond us, the federal government, because there's ARPA requirements. But I think each and every one of you showed where that need meshes with what our county responsibilities are. I don't look at any of it as a charitable contribution back to you. I look at it as a partnership with each of you that we end up doing it with. If we do partner with you to get some work done that we should be doing as a county anyhow. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls? I was gonna do, if you want to do final, that's your final, Commissioner, comments?
Yeah.
Okay, Matt, we're gonna go to you. Do you have any comments?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, then we'll move to Commissioner Rawls then.
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Commissioner Adams just said. He really puts it eloquently, and he's correct. Your service providers for services that we need in our county, the Northeast Florida Regional Council just sent out an email this morning regarding opioid symposium that's coming up. This is an issue that plagues all of our communities. I personally am really concerned about Putnam County. Not that I'm not concerned about the region, but we have a big battle ahead of us just with regards to substance abuse. The fact that we don't have some of the other essential services, it really irks me when, I know that our citizens, right, wrong, or indifferent, when they're in crisis, whether it's substance abuse or mental health or whatever ails them at that point in time, they can't get the services locally because we don't have it. Commissioner Adams is absolutely correct. One of the things that we're working on, the Public Safety Coordinating Council, is getting that brick and mortar location so somebody can go to a one-stop shop. I was frustrated when I took a look at what we had in the county and all the different agencies that were all pulling in different directions, all spending money. We need to get that consolidated, pulling in the right direction, and I think that the county commission owes it to them to take the leadership position. I respectfully disagree with anybody that says that there's anything socialist about what we're doing. It's actually the reciprocal. You're a socialist if you don't fund this because you're making me pay for somebody to be housed in jail or even worse. So I do take affront of anybody that wants to sit here and try to describe me as a socialist. This isn't what a socialist does. What a responsible leader does is make sure that these services are available at the time they're needed, rather than kicking the can down the road and send them to jail, let the court system get backed up with all the court cases. Even the courts are coming in saying we've got to figure out a solution to this. So, we're spending money for it. All I'm asking us to do is reallocate the money, spend it in a different direction. That's my 2 cents worth. So thank you very much. I appreciate you guys showing up today and for everybody's time. And Paul's right. It's very contentious, but this is how the sausage gets made. We don't go behind smoke-filled rooms and talk to each other. And if that's not obvious today, it'll never be. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Rawls. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity, and this isn't over yet. And I agree with Commissioner Adams that we've got another bite at the apple to look at, trying to help people that are helping our citizens, and this commissioner is all for that. What does that look like? What does that mean? We're going to have to figure out that as we go down the road. But today we did land 2 planes that are necessary. The worst thing we do sometimes is we throw a lot at staff without a lot of direction, and they're wondering what are they going to do. And again, we need to get these projects moving forward. So I appreciate the opportunity today. This isn't the last ARPA meeting. We're going to have another one in February, and maybe at that point we'll decide the deliverables and things that we can do to help our community. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
I have nothing further to add, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll turn to County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things. I want to piggyback on Commissioner Harvey's comments just there at the end about responsibilities of staff. In the February 9th meeting we got scheduled here just a few minutes ago, we can get together later if necessary, but is there any direction that you would like for staff, just anything that we need to be prepared for on February 9th? We'll need to have that conversation so we can make that meeting as beneficial as possible. And the last thing that I have is, we've been working through with the Department of Corrections on trying to get our inmate work squads back, and we got our contract yesterday back from the Department of Corrections. I got it at the attorney's office now reviewing it. If comments come back positive on there from our county attorney, I'll do an addendum for this coming board meeting to get that approved. What I'll be requesting at that time is an additional 3 positions for the board to approve 3 additional positions for us to be able to hire the employees that are necessary through the Department of Corrections agreement, and moving the contractual funds that we pay annually to DOC that we're not utilizing at this point over to personnel services to fund those.
I get it.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes, Mr. Suggs, when, I agree with everything you just said, and I'm on board, but I have a question concerning it, which would be, is the state charging us the same amount of money for prisoners that they would have charged us if we didn't furnish the supervision?
No, sir. What we're getting is 3 work squads of up to 5 individuals per work squad. What we'll do then is we'll hire the staffing that's required to manage that.
Understand all that,
And
but I'm
there's no-
saying, we pay DO, or the Department of Corrections, so much money a year to furnish, and I think we agreed to do it this year. I'm not sure, but I think we did. So my question is, do we still have to pay DOT and
No, sir.
hire somebody?
No, sir.
Or
What
it's a different deal?
Yes, sir, completely different. It's a different agreement. What those fees were for last time was for the corrections officer to come out with them. Now that we don't have that, we'll be picking up those costs ourselves and their personnel costs.
I'm good.
And so those are waived. So I'll do an addendum to the agenda that's coming out for next Tuesday, so we can get that moving, so I can get
Thank you
Ms.
for moving
Corona to
that
advertise that. Absolutely.
Thank you for moving that forward.
Okay, all right. I just want to thank everybody for coming. As Paul Adamczak says, Commissioner Adamczak, we can't discuss this other than in this venue of an advertised meeting. The Sunshine Law does make it tough on commissioners at times, because this is probably one time where we should have been with a couple of staff members and locked ourselves in that small conference room and be able to discuss all these things. But I think it was good discussion. We didn't agree 100%, but we did agree that we did move some things forward that benefit the citizens of Putnam County, especially the communication system. That's been something we've been trying to fund, and it touches everybody that lives in Putnam County or will pass through Putnam County, and it was something that we really, truly needed to do. We still have money left. I would ask each commissioner to come with their requests of how to split this money up, whether we're going to give a percentage to the nonprofits or we're not. I still would like to see some money go to Parks and Recs, to Parks and Recs. But to come prepared through the 9th meeting, we had to have this meeting, and I think we did move forward some stuff, and staff needed some direction to start working on these things, so I appreciate the commission for doing that. But come and we can discuss and hash it out again on the 9th, and hopefully we can wrap the ARPA money up. So, is there any further business to come before this meeting? Seeing none, we're adjourned.